This reminds me of a shirt that I wear. It says, "Be kind."
Mm,
And then it also says, "Everyone is going through a struggle that you know nothing about."
yeah.
Because even though, well, I don't fully understand how I come across, but I generally assume that I come across a lot more positive than I sometimes feel.
Control Alt Redeem is for anyone called to ministry in the digital frontier, gamers, streamers, and everyday believers navigating life online. Each episode equips you to live on mission and the real stories of lives being changed. Reset your expectations, reframe your mission, and redeem the space you're already in. This is where digital ministry gets practical, creative, grounded, and hopeful. One episode at a time.
Welcome into Control Alt Redeem. We are resetting the culture and redeeming the space. And I get the privilege of having Samus419 on the podcast. I have been bugging you for over 6 months, I know, to get on the podcast. And so after, getting together a couple of times in person, chatting, like we can hold conversations, no problem. You're going to do great. I've got a lot of people looking forward to it. So glad to have you in here.
Yeah, for the most part, it's me just being a shy person. I don't know if people realize this because I talk more freely on when I'm around people that I know and comfortable with, and on my streams. But in general, I'm a kind of a shy, awkward feeling. I mean, I don't know if I come off as awkward, but I feel awkward type of person.
Well, I think that's one of the wonderful things in digital space is we have the ability to have a little bit more barrier between us and other people at times. We can have our comfort zone. I talk about this with some of my friends who are in mental health, and they're like, people are so much more comfortable when they're sitting in their own space. So if you're going and you're talking with your therapist and you're sitting at home from the screen that you spend a lot of time on, you're much more engaged in the process of helping yourself than I have something going on with the kids, I'm showing up, or something horrible happened at work, I'm rushing to get some meal, I'm going in, I don't really want to talk about it, and I'm not comfortable. And then they look at the clock and there's 15 minutes left and they finally go, well, I'm paying for this, I better talk about it. It's like, no,
Mm,
you
yeah.
you just immediately are able to be at ease in the space. And so I hope that you're at ease here and comfortable and able to just go wherever the conversation lets us go today.
Yeah, I've always been pretty comfortable talking to you. Maybe the first conversation, which I don't remember because it was probably at Reach 1. And I don't remember much of that because I was just, there's so much going on. I was overstimulated the whole time. And I forgot to mute my phone. But there we go. So I don't remember that specifically, but that I was probably uncomfortable just about everybody at that point. But that made me much more comfortable since that turned out okay. That meant that a couple months later when I went to NCMS, that turned out well
Yeah.
also. Because I
Yeah.
was a lot more comfortable now.
Yeah.
Like
That what
nobody attacked me at Reach. Weird.
Yeah, it is like you are on the top of the list up there. My top 10 probably streamers who I have been in the same place. And we've been at NCMS a couple of times. We've been at Reach Conference a couple of times. So the person who has been the most is probably still Jate Live, because there's also another conference that's a church planting conference called Exponential that Jate and I have been in the same space together. So Jade is probably still number one. Then it's going to be people from Lux Digital Church, probably because they also have been at that conference along with Love Thy Nerd. So it's kind of like, hey, it's upper echelons of face together, in person, and not just on a screen. So I really have loved the time that we've gotten to have conversations when we're just sitting there. It's like, here it's going to feel like, oh, we have this time slot and we've got to fill it and everything's got to be good. And like, we could just sit there for a while and just like say nothing and be fine with each other in that space. And for me at times, I appreciate not having a conversation and just sitting with someone. And I'm sure being an
Yeah.
introvert, you appreciate not being expected to have a conversation at times.
Yeah, definitely. There are times when, you know what, I'll just pull it closer. Uh, there are times when I'm really more comfortable just I mean, when I'm comfortable with somebody, I'm okay with just sitting there and just doing my own thing near them. In fact, that is probably one of my neurodiverse love languages, actually. I think it's called parallel play.
Okay.
And so what that is like I had a boyfriend where he would play Call of Duty and I would be sitting there on my phone. And then we would be talking to each other sometimes. I'd comment about his game, he'd comment about or there's one time I was just building a wooden structure, one of those things that just come in wooden bits. And
Hmm.
we weren't really interacting, but it was really nice just to be near each other.
Yeah. That is well, if you go with the 5 love languages, being present with others, spending time together, but the thing is, you and your significant other define how that time is. Or if it's just, I love spending time with my kids, you define what spending time is for the two of you. So for some people, it's going to have to be an activity that you're doing. Like my son and I, we like to go play disc golf. He'll call me up and say, "Hey, you around? Let's go play disc golf." During COVID, we hit every disc golf course within an hour of my house. So
Nice.
every Friday we would get up, we would drive, and we would say, "Here's the course we're starting at, and then we'll see how many more we hit before we go back home." So for him, we still like to do that. Let's go hit a disc golf course. He needs an activity to spend time together. My wife and I, we don't need an activity to be together.
I definitely prefer having an activity. Like, for instance, Annika lives near me right now,
Mm-hmm.
and she moves around a lot, but right now she's near me. And so next week she's going to come to visit, and I'm coming up with all these things, including, well, there's a spot out in the yard that needs some plants. Do you want to do that? And just having something to do where we aren't just like staring at each other trying to keep the conversation going. It's okay to pause and let our thoughts just kind of wander for a bit.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the beautiful things that ends up happening on Twitch is whether you're playing with other people on screen or you're playing with one, you're just playing against the computer, you have other people that are hanging out, or even if you're doing other things like, doing a co-working, there's the camaraderie of what's happening on the screen with everybody. But you can be a lurker in the space and still be present. I mean, I know a lot of people want to get lurkers engaged, and I love the engagement. But frankly, when there's people that have, 3 and 4K people watching them, I could never engage on that level. So I know if I ever got to that level, I would want only a dozen people or 2 dozen people commenting. That's really where I can hold a conversation with people is in that range. I probably really can't hold it at that level, but not everyone's engaging the whole time, even if they're active chatters within 20 minutes is 20 people. To me, that's pretty fantastic. It's not always that way because you don't always have that many people, but the lurkers who are just there being present while things are going on, they're still really good. Yes. Professional semi-lurker, River says. I believe it, friend. I believe it.
Yeah, yeah. I do my best to lurk places. Like I turned them off for this stream to make sure that
Hmm.
the quality of the video was going to be okay. But now that Twitch has limited you to just looking at two places at once, I still try to always keep two tabs open, even if I'm not actively watching them. But I tried to. The thing is, some of them are just too interesting. And so if I actually actively watch them, I'll interact and then I'm not lurking. So,
Well, that's a good thing when they are pulling you into the conversation with what's going on. I find that every once in a while we'll hit on one topic and there'll be people who have been lurking for an hour and then suddenly whatever got spicy brings people out of lurk mode to fully engage and to join in the conversation, and that's always fun to see what it is that's going to bring people in.
yeah, yeah. Personally, as you were just talking about trying to get lurkers, like call out lurkers, I'm happy if I have just a couple of chatters, and sometimes I'm happy enough just rambling at myself. Be like, "Well, what? Where am I gonna go next? I suppose I could go over to that rock. I don't know what's going on over there," and just
That I'll tell you, it is much easier with some things to hold a conversation with yourself than others.
Mhm.
My family, we are verbal processors. We talk aloud to ourselves, so to go in that realm is not hard. But when with playing a game, I'm not used to talking. I'm used to sitting and focused on a game. So it's taken me, it's harder actually for me to spend time doing a game because I try to commentate on what's happening and poking fun of, like, am I going to get lost again today? Because I get lost because there's no map in the game I'm currently playing.
Oh,
Like there's no map here. And so I've wandered around in circles. Like I played on Monday and I ended up starting or getting back to where I was to begin with because I went against one person, couldn't defeat them. Went around, found another person I couldn't defeat. And it's like, all right, let's go back to the beginning. Maybe I missed somebody that was weaker that I could defeat. And then but it's going to take me forever to find back those people because it'll be a week between playing. So I won't remember the map.
right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I've been having a little bit of that problem with Pocopia. Actually, you don't have like damage, but there's no map, and so I'm having to figure out where I am, and especially if I'm like in a cave somewhere. Okay, where was the exit? What was I thinking? But that's also you're talking about finding a boss and then not being able to defeat it. Then that's what I like about hallway style games, open world. We like say Elden Ring.
Oh, yeah. Elden.
No.
Well, here's my problem with open world games. I won't do the main quest. I'll just go off and I'll start trying to find things. So I was playing that. I was trying to go to every cave there was. I probably played for 3 or 4 months, only going from cave to cave to cave. And then suddenly I'm out in the world and I'm having all these problems because I've turned into a vampire. I got bit somewhere by a bat, turned into a vampire. No idea when this happened. It could have happened 2 months ago. I'm not undoing 3 months of work. I'm just stuck being a vampire now. So it made it really challenging in some ways to be a vampire when I had no plans to be a vampire. So it's, that's the fun of playing with other people too, is when those things get discovered, it's like, oh my goodness, we can poke fun of each other and realize we all make silly mistakes along the way.
Yeah. I think that honestly makes the conversation more interesting, like being able to say something like, well, that wasn't expected. Well, let's see what's going to happen. I think that makes things a lot more interesting. Like earlier, you mentioned before stream started that you like symmetry. I've
Yeah.
actually purposefully avoided symmetry to knock things over my thing, but I purposely avoided, and I usually wear like 2 different colored socks. I need to clean my desk again. I got sick not long ago, and then everything just kind of piled up. But yeah, I've made a point to make things asymmetrical specifically so that I could get over that because it was like bugging me. And so yeah, now I'm a lot better. It was a well, learning process, but I'm a lot better at say dropping stuff in general. No pun intended. Dropping so I just dropped half the stuff on my desk.
Yep.
But like if something happened that I didn't like for instance, Jate has this pillow that he just loves, and he's got it, I don't know, 6 months ago. And a couple of days ago, I'm like, I need a new pillow. Let's see what his is about. So I looked at the link, finally decided on a version of that, and I'm like, I used his link, but I forgot to use the code. So he probably got credit, but I didn't get the 20% off. But I was only annoyed for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's done. I don't really care enough to call them. That is an option probably, and I don't care enough, so I'm just fine with this.
Yeah. Well, I know other people that intentionally avoid some symmetry in places. My son-in-law intentionally doesn't match his socks because this is a cool sock, but it matches the other foot. I don't need to wear the same one. I've already seen it. So I put a different sock on the other foot, which is also a cool sock. So there's no matching socks. Socks are just in a drawer, and you bring out 2 socks and you put on 2 different socks, and that's how he does things, which is really contrary to when my boys were growing up, and we all got to the point where we had the exact same shoes size. So all of my socks were black. One son's were gray, and the other son was white. You knew whose sock was whose by what color it was. We didn't have any pretty socks, nothing like that. No, just solid one color, that's all we get. Now they can do whatever they want, but that was just like easy. So mom doing laundry didn't mix things up because they weren't going to sort their socks out. Also, they wouldn't fight over you stole my socks because they weren't the same color. We knew it wasn't yours. So
Yeah, true. That's actually a great idea.
it simplifies making your choices in the morning too. Like, this is the color sock. It's not an accessory. It just covers on, it's just on your feet. You're good to go, and you move on from there.
I have noticed though that I do need them to feel the same.
Yeah, that would make sense.
In general, they have to be from the same set. But maybe at this point, I've been growing a bit. Maybe I don't need to as much, but it probably couldn't be my short summer sock combined with a winter sock, though.
Oh, no, no, no. You wouldn't want different heights. That would really be a problem for me. Like, no.
Yeah.
I could probably at some point mismatch, like, because I do have a problem throwing out the left sock if the right sock gets a hole in it, but then it just sits in the drawer and I don't wear it. You know, it's just there in case another matching set happens to have, and I have socks that actually are labeled right and left. You can get some of those. So I have some, not because I need them right and left. I just like that sock style, and they label them that way. Like we're not even talking really like Twitch here right now. Like we've just gone down a rabbit hole of weird stuff, which is fun. I usually throw socks away when they get holes. Oh, I absolutely. As soon as I get a hole, sock is gone. And part of my reason for it is when I was a kid and wore out socks, my mom would darn the socks and patch them up, and it never matched the feel of the other socks. And the heels were always worn out, and she would put like twice as thick of yarn as the sock in there, and it's a crisscross thing. It's like, oh man, I just no, I don't need that. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, the feeling of the socks. I've heard that that's actually one of, or a joke anyway, that's a joke that people, there's questions you ask when you test someone for autism, right? There's different questions. And someone put that as a joke when someone's like, all right, so do you have problems with your socks? And that's what the doctor said. And the patient was like, no, I don't. And the nurse was like, wait. Tell us about your sock system.
Yes.
Well, okay, they have to be like this and then like this, and they kept. And if there's like more than two sentences for that, then they probably have autism. In my personal experience, because I have a sock system.
Mine, I don't have a system. Sometimes I fold the socks together and mate them when I put them in the drawer, and sometimes they get thrown in the drawer as singles and I have to pick them out. It just depends on what I'm doing when I'm doing laundry, whether I care that day, whether I have time, or it's like, nope, I just want stuff put away. Cram them in here. It doesn't matter. We'll deal with it when I get them out. So I don't really have a system. I'm just particular on how they feel on my feet.
I prefer, which I don't always have the spoons for that. Do you know what I mean by spoons?
I don't know that everyone else does, and I don't know that I could explain it well. So,
okay, the gist of it is spoons are a measurement of psychological and physical energy. It's for people with chronic disabilities. And while it can be argued whether or not ADHD, autism, whatever is a chronic disability, at least at my level, I still use the term. And there's been plenty of times when I just don't have that ability to do stuff. So maybe I just had enough energy left after doing laundry to shove them in the sock area. But what I would prefer would be to have my summer socks in one bag so that I can just dig into there, and then like one set in a different bag and one set in a third bag, because I've got like the fall spring socks, and then I've got the really thick socks. So I prefer them to be in three different areas so I don't have to dig through all of my socks to find a pair. But yeah,
that makes sense. But
so some people consider it spoons as in like pouring out, but for me, I think of it as spoons like individual items. So some days and
that's where it's like I wanted you to explain it instead of me, because I've heard it more of like go to the drawer in the kitchen to get a spoon for my breakfast. There's no spoons left, or my coffee. There's no spoons left. So you're just applying that to the rest of life. I've used all the spoons up today. I can't do anything. I have no spoons left. So that's how I've kind of heard it. So
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
So then that soup or cereal goes uneaten,
right.
uh, metaphorically.
Metaphorically, exactly. Whatever the spoon was going to accomplish, you don't have it. So whatever you needed to accomplish, you don't have it. Yep. I totally get that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
well, why don't we circle to the beginning where I usually start? But like we were just having fun going, and I'm starting to do this more of the podcast. Like whatever the conversation goes, we'll just let that go for a while, and we'll just have fun with it, and then we'll come back to how did you get started on Twitch? So did you get started by coming and watching? How did you hear about it? And then if it was a different time frame from starting as a streamer, how did you get started as a streamer?
So, this is not somebody I necessarily recommend that you watch at this point, but Nathan Barnett is someone you have seen. I can guarantee it. You may not have known that it was him. But he is in a lot of memes. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's been on YouTube and in videos and stuff for like 15, 20 years. F- Since 2000s or like forever. Anyway, so I was following him and followed him from YouTube to Twitch. He has the distinguishedness of being able to. He basically made partner in the first month, and because like half of his YouTube channel went over there. So but they pushed it to two just to verify. Anyway, I was watching him put together some nano blocks, and I'm like, "Yeah, I think it goes there," and I'm like, "This is something I could do as a streamer. I mean, I could do this," and people were like, "Hey, yeah, I would watch you." I'm like, "Really?" Because he was doing, like, a long 30-day sort of a stream, and
Ooh.
we chat, we're talking amongst ourselves sometimes, and so then, like, a year later, probably, I got around to actually starting to stream, and I didn't start with that. I don't know what I started with, but, I started, and this is what I recommend for everybody. I started with like one friend that was there like the whole time. And so anytime I streamed, she was there. And usually there's like two or three. So I got to affiliate pretty quickly. I think it was within a month because everyone's like, hey, let's get Samus to affiliate. And we mentioned it over in his, and people would come over. And, but then one day I was supporting one of his followers who would read the Bible every day. Well, she would listen to a recording of someone reading the Bible, and so I wanted to support her, and so would come to her stream as often as I could, and she raided into Jate, and then suddenly this whole world of Christian Twitch
Ah.
opened up, and I remember that was October. I don't remember what year, but it was like 3 years ago, like 3.5 years ago. So I happened to do a follow age recently, but then basically decided I want to do what Jate does, and so I was got more consistent in streaming. Also, Taco, I was getting involved with Taco at that time, and so Taco wanted a set schedule. So I'm like, okay, I have to have a set schedule. And right when I was doing that, Jate happened to be decide that he was going to stream like part time, and the other half he was going to like help other streamers, and he was gonna stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So I'm like, "Okay, I'll do Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, so we're not conflicting." And so that's how my schedule became. And I'm like, "He didn't stick with it, but I will."
You said one of the things that you really recommend to people is having a friend who's going to be there supporting you as you get started, having that person
Mhm.
in the chat. Was this someone that you knew in person, someone that you had met in online community already that was going to be there? And then did you invite them to be a mod as you started?
Yes, they were my mod. They have been my mod since the beginning. They were my first. Her name is Lesba Friends, and she is absolutely wonderful. She doesn't fully understand it at this point because I've adjusted. She doesn't fully understand all of where I stand on everything, but she tries so hard, and sh it's all, how do I put this? All in my benefit. It's always better when she does it anyway, is what I'm trying to say. So, but, yeah, I knew her online. I knew her through the Nathan Barnett community, and, we it was just good to have someone to chat with. Like, even a year later or so when she was busy with things, or something, and she wasn't able to be there, and other people, maybe I changed games, whatever it was, I didn't have anyone in chat for a couple of streams. That was difficult, and I was already semi-experienced at that point.
Right.
So, when you're just starting out, you need to have someone you're talking to, like just a friend, just so you can get used to checking chat while you're playing and stuff. It's a good habit to get into right away.
Yeah. I will go back to I love how you started in some ways because it is similar to myself in the being in Twitch, watching Twitch, developing and building relationships by being in the chat with other people. And then when you go live, you had a lot of support to start with. I don't think
Yep.
I don't think enough people value that. I talk about observing Twitch for 6 months before I even went in that direction, and I joke around about like I'm not going to do this. Why would I want to do this ever? This doesn't make sense to me. So nobody wants to watch me. I'm horrible at games. So it's like I get all of those things, but there's a piece of building relationships with people that when you go live, they want to support you. I think that's really
Yeah.
cool. And I also don't know that it would work. I still think it could. For instance, if I went to my church, my family, and said, "Hey, I'm going to go live." By the way, when I did, my kids all watched me for a while, and then they decided Dad's not fun. We don't need to watch Dad. And so they know all my jokes. They've heard them for years. They roll their eyes. They're like, "We're out of here. We don't need to see Dad." But even just initially having some, and I don't mean ringers in the sense of, they're doing things, but they're just your audience. Having people that care about you jump in from the start because they already have a relationship with you to say, "I'll support you getting started. I don't know I can do this long term. I don't know how long I'm going to do it. It might not be for me, but I didn't ask my mom, but if I was younger, I would have. I would have said, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to start this. Can you go on and I'm going to do this every day at this time. Just turn it on and chat every once in a while. Listen, so there's somebody I'm talking to instead of nobody being there."
Yeah, yeah. I think it's underrated having someone in chat when you're starting.
Yeah. And the one and only Creepy Pro is here, showing up so often, and I guess on your side now as well.
Yep.
Chatting on your side, they're often jumping in here, and the lurk message is hilarious when they lurk on my side because it says God settles in with a beverage because they lurk
Nice.
and they give the blessing, and it picks that up instead of their name, which is really weird to me. But anyway, so
Yeah.
you got started, and so Jate really shifted you. What were you doing before you ran into Jate? Was there some consistency after you made affiliate? What were your thoughts? What were you trying to do? Were you really inconsistent, or what was the pattern that you were following?
Well, before Taco, really, I wasn't consistent at all. I would say, "Well, I'm going to stream such and such amount of time." I think, like maybe the year before Taco or a couple of months before Taco, I had done a what was it a New Year's resolution that I would stream at least once a week, and so that generally ended up being like Saturday because it was the end of the week. I hadn't done it yet, and so it was just something like that I was just not very consistent, and then working with Taco, I realized that you needed to be more consistent, and having a schedule is a good thing. So that's when I switched to having the schedule. But before that, what was I even? I think I was still just playing randomish stuff initially because, and might go back to a different. I might go to a different style right now. Let's get to that topic later.
Yeah.
But sticking with the same style, even if it's not the same exact game, I think also helps a lot. But I was doing everything from not board games to, but like puzzle games to like diamond art, like diamond painting to like game Control and Alan Wake and things like that are more fighty, and Alan Wake is a little more gruesome and spooky, and I was just kind of all over the place. And it took a while for me to kind of figure out that I'm mostly comfortable with at least as far as streaming goes, I'm mostly comfortable with more of the puzzle game sort of things.
Okay.
Now, I would I usually am using all of my spoons to try to just get normal life stuff taken care of, but I absolutely love games a little more on the spooky side, and to go into what I was gonna say earlier, since my goal is to show non-Christians that there are Christians that are safe, that are not gonna be,
Hmm.
attack them just because, they don't think the same way. So technically my stream is not for Christians. So I was thinking, maybe I could go back. I haven't even played Alan Wake 2 yet. I could go back to something like that. I may not go to finish up. There's another game that apparently gets a lot more gru it gets pretty dark is what I hear.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I probably won't bring that up per se, but just some things that I know that some of the people that I used to hang out with were more interested in.
Right. Right. And I think that's a good point of evaluating. And, in Just JD is putting in there, love streaming, but now thinking about winding down because it's not the same passion that was there before. That sometimes and Jate talks about this too, of if he's trying to reach non-Christians and suddenly his stream is filled with Christians, then there's a time to shift and change to continue to pursue who that is. And so one of those ways to do that is to switch what game that you're playing. And there's some Christians that just don't want to go to non-family friendly games, regardless of reasons why it is. They don't want to go there, and I can understand that. But that's also going to be where it's darker at times, and people are going to be far away from Christ, and so it opens up the avenue to get in front of other people. So it's funny, like you're talking about wanting to show, which I really, really love. And I know there's so many people that do. I want to have non-Christians realize that Christians can love them. Like they've not experienced that. I think that's a really valuable thing for people to experience. For me, I want people to know that the Bible is fun and the Bible is exciting. So it's got to be that way when you show up. So that means, well, then I guess I'm going to have to keep reading the Bible if that's what I want people to learn, whether they're Christians or not, is the Bible is fun and it's exciting. So that's what we're going to do. And I also want people to know about friends of mine like you who are in the space and are doing some things that are going to reach people I'll never reach.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is they're like, well, I could never be a streamer because of this or that. And like for instance, I personally, if I were to compare myself with Jade, I do not have the innately attractive personality that Jade has. He just brings people in. He's an extrovert and he's good at it. That's not what I'm good at. But I'm good at things. But he can have the people that he has and all the people that I have. And that's okay. I'm better at being more toward the chill side apparently, even if I'm not trying to. And I can like, for instance, I can play spooky games, he cannot. They don't work for him. But also to go back to what you were saying about making the Bible interesting, I didn't actually find the Bible interesting until, say, 3 years ago. And, I think a lot of that had to do with, 1, I finally realized what following Jesus was actually about.
Mm.
I didn't A lot of times you're just like, "Yep, he's my Lord, he's my savior," but you don't really understand what it is to have a Lord and
Yeah.
to have someone over your life. And so then I started making a point to read the Bible more often, and then I found NLT. Well, ESV is fine, but NLT is just so much easier to understand and to read. And just for the reading part, not for the studying. For the studying, you want something with a little more that's a little more word for word, I think. But the point is to get the information and the ideas and the concepts in your head in the first place. And once that I found a translation that spoke my actual language and not a language from 50 to 200 years ago, mm, then I actually really enjoy it because I get more out of the stories.
Oh, and some people will be there's only one translation or it's got to be this kind, and I'm more like there's a few I would say avoid, but that list is small, and
Right. Yeah.
and those are going to be denominations or individuals who wrote their own with an intent to exclude other thoughts. And this is the only one that's right. As soon as you have someone say this is the only one that's right and it's in English, you know they're wrong because the Bible wasn't written in English. So everything is a translation in English. So we're going to learn new things about language that we didn't know when it was translated into English because we've discovered more Greek, we've discovered more Hebrew, and so we've got more application there. I tend to say, what's the best translation? The one you will read. That's
Exactly.
it. If you won't read it, it's not the best translation because I could have the most nuanced translation. It won't be mine, but whatever it might be that has had 100 scholars write it in 100 days. And I'm kind of picking on that idea. But anyway, they translate everything and it's perfect. And you go, I don't understand it. Well, then why would you read it? It doesn't matter if you don't understand what's being said there.
Yeah, and to go back to the personality stuff, just JD said that he feels like his personality is too mellow, and Ukulele said that we need more people with mellow personalities. There's too many drama personalities, and that's kind of where I'm at. Is even when I try to be exciting, I tend to be more on the mellow side. And so I'm trying to lean into that more and just using it to my advantage. Lean into what you're good at. Some people think, what is my music doing?
I don't know. I can't hear it. So I don't know what it's
It
doing.
was it was doing some really dramatic stuff. I was like,
Oh,
what in the world?
oh, that's good
I've
timing.
got
Like you're just right in the middle of the heart of it, and music was crescendo up to the point you're going to deliver home for all of us.
Yeah, I mean it's similar. Like I mean, in a very broad sense, in the sense that if someone can't read the translation, then they don't understand it. Like for instance, I don't think NLT would work well for someone who is has African style English or English style English, because there are some things that are idioms that are
Oh,
definitely more American.
right. Yeah,
And so if it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't matter if it's what somebody else prefers.
yeah.
It's you have to understand it. Or,
Well,
I
and I'll say on some level too, there is a parallel here. So if a translation doesn't resonate with the person, you're not going to spend time with the translation. So
yeah.
if it's old wooden language from 200 years ago that I don't understand, why would I use it? If it's so modern and hip that I don't know the references or the idioms that are being spoken because I came from another country, I also don't understand it, and I'm not going to do that. So there's that, but also with different streamers, there's different styles, and sometimes, yeah, if you are a more mellow streamer versus dramatic, you know what? You might end up with more lurkers than you realize because lurkers aren't going to be looking for dramatic and they're not going to be engaging. They might just need it to be small, slow, steady, and those kinds of things. I find in some ways some of the mellow streamers, or I should say, a category where maybe some mellow streamers hang out is in the co-working. So they are kind of chill. Someone comes in with a raid and they're real chill about it. Hey, thank you, raiders, for coming in. We're working on some things. Here's the info about everything. And now we're going to go back to work. And, it's chill vibes and those kinds of things, which if you're working, you want. You don't want the host blowing up every time something's happening and getting excited. Like, I'm trying to work over here. This is so that we're co-working. So
Yep.
that might just be one of those places. Some games are also going to be the mellow type games, but I have spent time watching coworkers because, yeah, they're kind of mellow and I don't have to be, I don't want to say not invested. That's not the right word. I don't have to be active in those chats. I can just be more passive and laid back in those.
Yeah, there've been plenty of times like there's the first time I rated out with 15, I was like, "Wait, what?" There's like 2 or 3 people talking and I didn't get a raid. What happened? And because they were all just had me on, the second screen doing something else. I've heard a lot of people say I don't personally hear it myself, like, I mean, even in recordings, but had a lot of people tell me that, no matter what I say, apparently I just have a chill voice that some people just find really relaxing, and so I'm trying to lean into that, and, that's something that just JD might be want to lean into as well then.
Yeah, yeah. And it could just be finding the right niche within the space that is your own that gives you energy regardless of how many people are there. And I'll tell you what's interesting to me, and I don't know if this is true for you, like it doesn't matter how many years I've done this. I mean, 5 years of streaming, and still I can get up in the morning and go, I don't want to do it today. I don't have the energy today. I don't know if it was last week or if it was earlier this week. It was just like, man, I was out of spoons to start the day. It was like,
Mm.
I didn't have it. I didn't want to do it. And I was like, I'm going to. And I had 2 raids that day. It was like, oh, that fixed everything. That it wasn't because I was worried no one was going to show up or any of those things. It was just like, I was, just nothing to drive me to move forward. A couple of raids happened. The regulars show up and it was like, they filled me. They all passed me their spoons and said, here you go. Here's the rest of your day. You're ready to go. So there's those kinds of fun things that happen too.
Yeah, definitely. It's just one of those things where sometimes, like for instance, I've been trying to adjust my sleeping schedule. This might be coming. It sounds like it's coming off the wall, but I'm trying to adjust my sleeping schedule so that I'm waking up, like say at 8:30, so I can actually be awake for the day. And then I'll just lay in bed until like 11 or later, and it's because I have no spoons, and I think it's the like a lack of dopamine. I'm trying to fix that. And that involves things that are not comfortable, like while fixing the sleep schedule, but also exercising. Exercising's not comfortable, but it's good for you. Uh, but I mean, like what they say, you're not growing if you're not uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there definitely is that level, especially when you talk with exercise, and we can circle back to that later with exercise. Let's jump back to you were talking about. So you were streaming, you got exposed to Jay, you got connected with Taco or similar time frames there. You set up with regular schedule. What changed at that point for you?
I think it was just kind of a little by little, I saw something that needed to change or that I wanted to change, and I fixed it. I worked on it. One of the things, I don't remember the time frame specifically, but one of the things was, for example, getting this background, not like my in person, but my background to be interesting. And it's just a generic one you can get on Stream Elements, but when it's by itself without all the stuff on top, or just a select few of the things on top, like my starting page, it makes it interesting enough, and it looks kind of classy. And I think it's getting to about time I'm thinking about doing something else. But for now, it works. It's just doing one thing at a time, like setting up an alert to remind people to like to say check out the Taco Discord, or to clip me, because I don't get clipped very often, and I think a main part of that is because I'm just so chill. I don't have any of those really upbeat, exciting things happen very often. But when something happens, I mean, I don't necessarily think I need to be clipped, but someone else might, and it might be interesting. So just little things like that, and like trying out things like looking for the word. I have a PNG tuber. And
Oh yeah.
actually, I also have a YouTuber or VTuber. Both are again are free, and my my VTuber is actually stinking adorable. It's a slime, and it's just so stinking cute.
Okay,
It's
okay. A slime that's stinking cute. Really?
uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to see this.
But, I might be able to get it set up. We'll see. But my PNG tuber, it's okay. It has it kinda I was going for a general look of what I looked like before I started growing my hair out, and just something kinda general, just so it was there for the days that I'm like, "I don't really want to stream, but
Hmm.
I know that I should." And so that was to bring down one make it one step easier.
Right.
And doing that then made it so that I would stream more often, because while I'm not really I don't have the ability to get myself to emote properly. I can yeah, so I don't wanna do all the face stuff. So, let's just go ahead and have a,
Well, and in some
um
ways, it's a prepared backup system. to be ready to go if there's something today that's like so. I love that idea of because if you're going to go plan a journey, or Jesus talks about you're going to build a house, you plan it out as you're going to do it. Nobody starts building a house and doesn't plan what's going to happen. So if you're going to plan to be a streamer, yeah, there's things you can't, know are going to happen. But as you begin to realize, here's some things that I need, here's some ways that I can do it, here's some things that help, having a VTuber, having those kinds of things as another method, another means are going to allow you to connect and reach and be with people more often. Then that makes a lot of sense to be prepared for that.
Yeah, and it's and sometimes people will then stick with their VTuber or PNGTuber just because they find they like it that way. I have Quiz says Sente's rubbing off on her. Sente is classy with his flat cap. He actually does have a flat cap, I think. But mine is definitely cuter. But there's also the consideration that some people feel more connected to seeing an actual person. But I would say that some people feel more connected with not seeing an actual person. That seeing an actual person can be a little more intimidating.
Right. Well, and I've watched some videos on different groups of people, and so this makes some sense if you understand people that either have social awkwardness or maybe on the spectrum, they don't always read social cues really well. So when you take
Mhm.
the human face and the hand gestures out of it and you make everything have to be overly animated, whether that is a PNG tuber that has to exaggerate everything that's going on, they can pick up on the cues. They're not reading body language in the same way. It simplifies everything. They understand it better. They feel more connected because they can understand. And that also goes for people that are furries. There's a portion of them that also does not read cues, and furries also are really big and over exaggerated gestures for everything that's going on. So if you have a better time communicating by going through and I'm just going to use that as a generic term for it, a screen filter that's showing not yourself, a costume that's showing not yourself, and now you can communicate and you can connect. Like, what a beautiful thing that we can better connect with people by putting something that is going to make it easier for them to understand what we're communicating.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's really the point. I mean, it part of the whole point of communicating is to get your point across.
Right.
I used to be a stickler for saying things a certain way because it was technically correct. And then I eventually realized, yes, I might technically know the official way of what was originally, but language changes and that's not how people understand it anymore. And so using it in that way is just confusing and it's not getting my message across properly. So I stopped doing things like that. At least I try to. I'm sure I do it every once in a while. But
I'm sure we all have certain phrases that just, like great. And they're like, I have to correct it or, let people know this is wrong, the way that they're saying it. And some of those,
yeah.
like, it just doesn't matter. You're not going to win against society. I'll just share one that bothers me is irregardless. Well,
Oh dang.
regardless means without regard. Irregardless would mean then with regard. So you could just say regard. Like so
Uh,
like you've double negatived a word which didn't need to be double negatived. I'm never going to win the
Yep.
war on trying to correct people. I could correct my kids growing up so that they didn't sound uneducated by using it. And I'm not blaming anybody that's to sound uneducated. I'm saying that's my perception of my own kids, not other people. So, but there's just
Right.
there's a simple example of that.
Yeah. And a lot of people well, it's because of, let me see, irrelevant.
Right.
And I think that they are used to hearing irrelevant and then just put regardless together. So it's just a little hiccup in their brain. And I've just decided that I'm gonna think of it that way and just let it be.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though my inside my head, I twitch every time I hear it.
Well, I did not know I was picking one that you also were a little annoyed by. Well, that's fun. Well, just sticking in the direction of where we've touched on, what have been some barriers and difficulties that you've faced and you've had to overcome as a streamer? So those can be things that, the tech stuff of doing it, things of scheduling, or it can be stuff in life that has been a barrier, things that you've overcome in your time as being a streamer.
Uh, well, as you mentioned scheduling, and one thing for scheduling would be that it's okay to change your schedule sometimes. Like I recently, oh, let me see how many months ago, probably 2, 3 months ago, I'm not entirely sure. I switched to daytime and I used to stream. I'm in Central Time, stream from 6 to 9. And my sister would go to bed around 10. And so then I was always afraid that I was going to be waking her up, especially if she decided to go to bed early. So but it turns out that the answer is apparently no, especially now that I've moved more towards the chill side. But now I'm streaming during the day so that I can hopefully have a better sleep schedule. And one thing I'm thinking about doing once I get the spoons for it is to also have like more streams and then actually the work together, the
Oh yeah.
stream together, the co-working streams, because I think that that would actually help me to be more productive as well. But right at this moment, a lot of my productivity is actually in person stuff, and I don't necessarily want someone to have my camera on while I clean my room. Like I'm probably come across stuff I don't want on the internet.
That makes total sense. And I will say the co-working streams can be fun. I did that for a while. I did those on Mondays and Fridays when I got done with reading the Bible. And then I had to, in some ways, stop doing it because I would end up engaged with people in the chat while I'm supposed to be doing working because I've got to chat with them even if I'm working. And I was like 50 less productive of doing it. So if you're going to do it, so I then went to one day and then I got so busy with stuff. It's like, okay, I've stopped doing it. I'd like to go back to doing it. I enjoyed doing it, but there's all of those trade-offs. And I like how you said, like, I'm changing things in life to make myself healthier. So sleep is one of those things, priorities, other
Yep.
people around me, priority. So stream schedule can shift. Yeah, there'll be differences of people who can show up. There'll be new people that can show up when that happens. So television shows
Yeah, but
used to do
there's
that to us all the time.
right, yeah. There's definitely a time when I was thinking, well, it's my schedule. I can't really change it, and I can't go to I can't join this small group because of that, and I can't do that small group in person because of that. And that was another reason is now I'm able to join my in-person church's small group, and I'm able to join the ladies group in Lux. So, and been wanting to be a part of the ladies group for like almost the whole time I was there, but just the schedule just wasn't. I'm like, well, I stream during that time, so I can't. Well, you know what? I made the schedule. I can change it. Well, that's something you just got to be able to accept, though, is that you aren't as locked in as you might, or for me anyway. I what not as locked in as I might have tried to make myself believe
Well,
because I
and
was trying to be consistent.
right. And I think consistency can have shifts and changes in it. But if every single month you're shifting and changing your schedule, that's going to be really difficult for people. But to shift it twice a year, maybe in some modifications in some ways, or one
Mhm.
big change a year, streams are going to be able to adjust to that. People will adjust. Some people might turn into lurkers that were active before. Some people won't make it, and there'll be new people that are able to show up.
Yeah, and it's for me. It was just realizing that that's okay,
Hmm.
and also, I think part of it. So there was like when I first switched to days, I was also switching to Final Fantasy 14.
Oh yeah.
And, that's a game that does have some action in it, but also it's not, like, huge stuff as far as I can tell. I haven't finished the first, stuff before any DLC, but since I don't really react overly strong, I don't get majorly angry or have a huge celebration or anything. It can still be a relatively chill stream. I just felt like I wasn't getting as many people there. but also I wasn't enjoying it as much. I think part of it was that I'm I'm not that great at I like them, but I'm not that great at MMOs. I'm just not.
Yeah, not my thing. I did actually. That was one I was trying to play probably 2 years ago, and like, okay, because I'd always liked Final Fantasy, played them on Xbox, played those through until they moved on or my kids moved on, and I haven't played the last
Yeah.
couple. So it's like, oh yeah, I'll pick that up. I know the gist of it. I can play that, and it's like it was a nuisance in my mind, all of these people wandering around trying to do things like, I'm trying to kill this person. This person also was trying to kill the same person that I'm trying to kill. How are we both killing, but we're not doing damage to the other person? This was just like not okay with me. Like we got 3 people trying to do the same thing, but we're not helping each other. It was like we're just randomly in the same place, in the same game, doing the same task. I'm like, I don't want to see you. Like, go away. Don't you're bother a foghorn leghorn moment here a minute. You bother me, boy. Go away. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So but other people love that aspect of an MMO. And I was like, okay, I never played these. I realize I really don't like that.
Personally, I think part of it is that I'm not used to playing with other people. I mean, to be completely
Oh,
honest, it's something
exactly.
I need to get better at. And like even with collabs, I need to get better at that. And actually, right before I decided to stick with Final Fantasy, I was collabing with Sente weekly. We would play a couple of different games. I think the last one was Don't Starve Together, which is harder than it seems. I died a lot. I suspect that he's already done his dying before he started playing this, but I'm just not that great at playing with other people because I spent so much time just playing solo player
Oh,
games.
yeah.
So I'm trying to improve myself on that. But while I like the idea of playing the healer, like
Mm-hmm.
letting that's just kind of who I am as a personality is if I was an I in person actual thing, that's probably what I would be. Let everyone else kind of do their own thing. I would be a stealthy healer. I will come over and heal you and then get out of the way again. But if you absolutely need something, maybe I'll sneak a bomb behind the person or something. I don't know, but I don't want them to know I'm there. And but that doesn't work well with Final Fantasy because those or most games because those people are super squishy. They die so easily. And then I can't get to a level where I can play with somebody because I am working so hard just to get through the regular storyline and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
I resonate with wanting to be the healer, but mostly it's because I know we're going to take a bunch of damage. So I often, in D&D and other games like that, RPGs, I like to play a cleric, but I also want to fight. So I only do healing spells. There's no other spells. I don't care about anything else a cleric can do. The only thing a cleric is for is to heal and fight. So I heal myself up after the fight. Everyone else gets healed up after the fight, and we go on our way. I've got a raid coming in. I don't know if you saw that. So
I did, yeah.
wow, I still need to work on this. I have not done it, and now just one more time showing me I need to do this. So I don't have a raid channel scene. I need to figure that out, but I got to figure out how to do it with the guests too. So welcome in, everybody. Bum, bum, Big Unk KB. So good to have you here, friend. I actually got to lurk a little bit on your stream when I raided. Often I am running when I raid. I raided you this morning. So was enjoying you, spending time praying with other people, what you do. I just love your heart, man. Love your heart. Wish I could hang out with you all the time. We've got Poppy Grande 74 in the house. 9 Passion in the house. Welcome in. Sight Giver, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Oblivion BM. That's a nice one. I read that and then realized I was reading it and was like, I'm going to read it anyway. So welcome in, everybody. Appreciate you. Sinan, Sight Giver. Bud Mayotti. I think I've got it wrong, probably. Anyway, You're a busy man, so you truly understand. How's the podcast going today? And thank you. Oh, it's going really, really well. We're having a great conversation, trying to stay on task. Both of us struggling, but having a great time. And all of those who are coming in, I am flatcapdapperpastor. I'm over here on theChurch.digital where we do the podcast. And so I bring on Twitch friends like Big Unk KB, like Samus419, like others who are in the chat here. And we talk about what we have experienced in our time on Twitch, what God has been up to in our life, and what we see going on in the space around us. I don't normally make a plug for people to do follows here, but I'm going to make an exception because we are really close to hitting 500. And Big Unk, I would love to have you have just rated with this many people and then have you here when we hit 500. So if we get a bunch of follows from that awesome, awesome raid, we'll definitely be over 500 today. So welcome in all of you. And if we don't pay attention to chat, it's because we're focused on the conversation. We'll take some questions as we go along and we'll miss some. So Samus, how about you introduce yourself a minute?
I'm Samus419. You can call me just Samus if you'd like. And I generally do more chill games. I'm a chill streamer. Right now I'm playing through Pocopia. I'm do a lot of puzzle games. I've played, as we were just recently talking about, I will play like say Final Fantasy 14 and toying with the idea of switching up my stuff to being a chill streamer, but with more spooky stuff. So stuff like what was I thinking? Alan Wake 2, for instance. I haven't played that one yet because I might react, but I don't get loud. So it's still a relatively chill stream.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Big Unk does a bit of horror over there. I love how he refers to himself as the Black Ghostbuster. You know, that's kind of
Nice.
fun to be like, I'm gonna go play these horror games to bust all these ghosts. And so I don't usually stick around for those. You know, I and part of it is like whenever I've gone to horror movies in the theater, I ruin it for other people because I'm sitting there laughing at the silliness of things and they're over there terrified and I'm sitting there laughing. And so it's like, okay, no, this is not my place. But I know video games, at least some of that I've seen, get a little bit scarier than actually the movies do. I really think they do.
It's because you're in them. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But for me, I think I have theories as to why this is, but for me, actually, sometimes watching something because I'm not actively thinking about what I'm doing, it can be, but, so a movie can be more intense. But I think that either hanging out with people who have laughed at the movies, and so that's helped,
Yeah.
or it's just a blessing from God. They just don't scare me as much,
Hmm.
and they don't really seem to bother me nearly as much. But yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of my favorite games are like Silent Hill 2 and Eternal Darkness.
Okay. Yeah. And I think some of it is, does your mind get consumed with the images and the thoughts? And this goes for any game. Does your mind get
Exactly.
consumed with the images and the thoughts in an unhealthy way that fills your life with fear and dread in any capacity? Like, is that what you're dreaming about and you're having horrible dreams because of what you watched? This also could be of what you eat. You know, there's different ways to end up with horrible dreams about things or your mind being consumed with thoughts that are unhealthy. If not, and it's simply entertainment and enjoyment and you walk away, then that's different for you than some other people. And I love how Paul says to some, a thing, you know, it's not for you and you shouldn't do it, but for someone else, it's just fine. And then he says, for the weaker brother, when I'm around you, I won't do it. So, you know, there's those kinds of things as well when we're looking at stuff is, all right, this might be fine for me, but I don't do it when you're around. So you're coming over to my house and I know that horror games are horrible. I don't say, well, this is what we're playing. I got the brand new one.
Right,
We'll
exactly.
play something else. So
Yep, it's just taking other people into consideration. And that's the nice thing about I keep scratching my nose and my lip. I think I'm finally getting a little bit of allergies for the spring. But but yeah, that's one of the things with tags is I like to let people I don't know, see my tags I kind of I let things be a little more loose as far as languages. So I have it set to PG-13 as one of my tags because I don't I don't think that someone who is fresh off the streets needs to say fix themselves before they're
Mm.
able to come into my stream.
Yeah.
So I will, might mention there's a couple of words that I prefer you don't use, but don't worry about it. I'm not gonna like get mad and ban you or anything. But that goes same with the games. I'm like, how do I explain that there might be some semi nudity, but it's a zombie, so it's not like it's attractive,
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah,
And
and
so how do I explain this in a tag and explain this to people who are just dropping in? So it's trying to be respectful of other people's and their and what they can handle
well,
without.
and Twitch does have, you know, the different warnings on different games, that are automatically put in there by the game when you're playing the game so people know. And they do have the for anything of a certain age or certain graphic, the hey, you're going to a stream that has this. We're making sure you did not get there by accident. So if you're in a raid train, you don't show up later, it blocks it so you don't end up there unless you click yes, I'm accepting that I'm going to go in. Yeah, trigger warning command helps with live stream, especially with raids and pop in viewers. Yeah, absolutely. So those are wonderful things to have and be able to utilize things. But as we were talking earlier, and I like how you've added another nuance, like for some people, they aren't going to have everything cleaned up and now they're going to come to a church service. Like if we're reaching
Mhm.
people with the gospel in a Twitch stream, the next thing for them is probably not go show up on a Sunday morning in a church where they don't know anybody. That's like the last thing they should probably do. It's continue to build relationship with the streamers around them that are loving and sharing Christ with them. Get connected in a Discord and keep taking small steps forward. Yeah. I laugh at times with certain people that show up in my stream and will apologize for cussing or whatever else. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't bother me. It might bother other people in my channel, but it's like, no, like, do or they'll simply say, hey, praying for me to continue working on my cussing, is probably what happens more to me than some other people. But it's like, yeah, I understand you want to clean that up, but I'm not judging you for not having it cleaned up yet. And I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing that we need to realize is if you are on the way and actively working on it, I'm going to celebrate you. I'm not going to judge you for not being arrived yet. I mean, that would be like, let's go to elementary school and let's tell everyone to stop running track because you can't run a marathon yet.
Right, yeah.
Like that makes no sense to anybody. So why would we do that in our faith life either? You've got the whole rest of your life to work towards, working out your salvation with fear and trembling, as Scripture says. We have our whole lives to continuously work on that.
There is always also, to poke on the other side of the fence, we do need to work on it.
Yes. Oh yeah. The person that just sits there and complains all the time and doesn't actually try to do anything. Yeah, that's absolutely not helpful at all.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends that I, I was trying. I have this thing. One of my autistic tendencies is try to be as accurate as possible,
Yep.
and so I was going to correct what I said. I'm like, no, friends, this is friends. It's okay. That are Christians. They consider themselves Christians. They have accepted Jesus as their savior, but I don't see any fruit that they have accepted
Hmm.
him as their his Lord, as their Lord. So I'm just like, okay, so for me personally, the thing that got me initially before the ultimate journey was a course that I went through that helped a lot. But initially I was like, okay, so how do I know that I'm not a goat versus a sheep? Because there's this
Mm.
part in the Bible where everybody is going to Jesus to go into heaven, and it's just a whole big crowd, and he's separating them off, some to the left and some to the right. And the one, so they call them goats and sheep, and the ones that are sheep are the ones that apparently did all the things as if like a random homeless person, random kid, they need a glass of water, give them a glass of water. They need clothes, give them a pair of shoes if that's what they need, and things like that. Whereas the other people didn't. And I'm just like, okay, so where do I stand in that? And and then there's parts. Where was it? Well, I think it's just the fact that the goats don't realize that they're goats,
Yeah.
and that was scary to me. Like, so is it possible for me to go to heaven and be like, "Oh, shoot, I was trying, but I tried wrong." But the more you dig into the Bible, the more you realize, okay, it's not that hard. You just got to do, what the Bible says, what Jesus says, which is basically love God and love others. That's basically it. But you also have to remember that who you are and have been is not perfect, and you need to work on yourself and yeah, get better at loving God and loving others. And
Yeah.
for me right now, I am focusing on learning how to spend time with God and how that's different than praying or reading the Bible.
Yeah, I think in the Western mindset, some of those things are really, really difficult of how do you spend time unless there's an activity that you're practicing and doing? How do you sit in silence with God without conversing with God? I like those to a Western mind, that like you have to actually be doing something to be doing something. So
Hmm.
it can become very difficult. The other thing is I don't really know how to teach that either. You know, I can sit here and explain it, but it's like, okay, now everybody just sit there and do it. Like that, it's like, what do you mean sit here and do it? Like, okay, like I can read all of the, and study all of the great teachers throughout church history that talk about all of the different spiritual practices and how to do them and to do them. But it's like, I don't always know if I'm doing them the way they were doing them. And I don't know it always matters either. Like, if for me to sit in silence next to my pool or my pond is feeling like God is present because I'm listening to the water flowing over my waterfall, then God probably is present in that moment, and I don't have to be actively doing anything in order to actually be part of connecting with God.
Yep. It's like we were talking about earlier, the love language of quality time.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be quality we're interacting with each other, just quality so we're near each other.
Yeah. Well, and to piggyback on that, when we're talking earlier with that, I mean, one of the things that a lot of people will recommend is we'll have a date night with your significant other. Well, you get to define what date night is or what a date
Mhm.
is. A date for you could be sitting in front of the couch and ordering pizza in and watching TV. That could be date night. It could also be we're going to go for a walk after dinner and we're going to talk about our day. That could be date night. Like all it is intentionally marked off time that's on your schedule that both of you know it's devoted to each other and no one else. That's all that I mean when I say that. You get to define all the rest of those pieces and components that work for you.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that it has to be out or something, expensive. My One of my favorite I can remember it almost specifically. One of my favorite date nights was just, my guy had made some homemade hot chocolate, a recipe I'd shown him from the internet. It's basically just ganache that was a little bit more liquidy.
Okay, okay.
So it was very rich. I wasn't able to finish it, but it felt felt pampered and I was wrapped up in a blanket, and he wasn't in the blanket with me. It was just me, and he was next to me because he's always really hot. And we're watching something on TV. I was probably like, I don't know, Chinese food or curry or something. He probably made curry, and that was it. It just doesn't take much if that's what a date is for you.
Right,
But
right.
there's so many
Well,
different
and
versions.
and then something you shared, and then he did something with what information he had, like the connectedness there of listening to and resonating with the other person, so much more valuable than here's what I want to do. I want to go do this. So we're going to go do what I want to do. So much more valuable to invest in what the other person is looking to do and what they enjoy, those kinds of things. So, yeah, that's really cool. Before the raid came in, we were talking about some obstacles you've overcome, and we had
Mm.
talked about the time and the schedule and that piece of things. Were there other things that you wanted to still include of some things that barriers, things you've overcome with being a streamer?
My personality has grown quite a bit from being a streamer. Like, for instance, there are people that can sometimes rub me the wrong way, and I am a lot better at not letting them do that. That just reminding myself they're not trying to be the thing that's annoying me.
Right.
They are trying to be encouraging and all this other stuff, and I just have to remind myself of all those sort of things. But then there are people that every once in a while, so not anybody who's been in my stream recently, but every once in a while someone will come in and I'm just like really annoyed and I'm like, I really hope this isn't showing, because I don't want them to feel bad. I'm bad at reacting to stuff
Yeah.
sometimes. And that's an aspect of just my mental stuff. It could be, here's another aspect is that my autism might not actually be autism. It could be just, or not just, it could be like from childhood trauma instead. And so I didn't learn how to relate to people properly at that because of that. Regardless, I still relate to people very similarly to how autistic people might.
Right.
So so that has been a place for me, is just remembering that just because it doesn't hit me in the right way initially, I need to turn it around and think about how they intended it,
Yeah.
and then sometimes turn it around again and assume that they intended it a positive way, even if I think that they might have intended it negatively.
Yeah, that is really at something that I found and learned over the years being a pastor is if I get an email from someone, so this can be chat, same kind of thing. I get a non-verbal communication. I probably read just as much, if not more, into it, my mood and my attitude than the person sending it. And so I often I get something that sounds like somebody's upset. I don't respond to the email with the email. I go to a voice message. I go to a voice call. I want to look them in the eye if I have that possibility. In chat, we might not, but it's like that conversation might need to go to Discord then.
Mhm.
If there's an upset and it's like, I don't want to compound this with more misunderstanding, so I want to hear voice, so I know tone, inflection, those kinds of things to be able to say, hey, and even if it's still could be asynchronous, like in Discord, we're sending messages back and forth, but we're just using voice to help clarify our tone so that we can hear somebody being angry versus hearing somebody being in jest. Those are important things. You could say the exact same thing and it mean more than one different thing. The one that I that suddenly popped in my head that I keep seeing the meme recently is about let's eat, grandma. Let's eat grandma. They totally say the same words. They mean something different.
Mhm. Yep. And some people, I mean, to kind of build off of that, is that some people don't use punctuation like at all.
Oh yeah.
And so you don't know if there was supposed to be a comma there.
Right. Right. Yes. Pepsi. Why are we eating, grandma? Nice. I like what you did there. So
Nice.
yeah, those are some of those things that and I love how what we're talking about in some ways too, and also the fact it took you 6 months or more to say I'm ready, I'm comfortable, is knowing your growing edge. Knowing I'm working on things, I'm not quite ready. I want to do this. It's something I want to be able to do, and so I'm just trusting the timing is perfect when God needed to have you on anyway. But that is like, and I hear these pieces in your story as you're telling them this is what streaming has helped me. And it's like, I don't know how many people are thinking about streaming helping you be able to grow as a person. And I love how you're including that as part of your story, that part of overcoming is becoming a better person, engaging more people, being more patient, being more loving, being more giving, because you have a community that you care for. You have other people in communities you care for. So it's bringing that out, that desire from you.
Right. Exactly. Another aspect is, I think part of it was going to reach and NCMS, but it's the aspect of realizing that being a leader and influencer, and also the shock of when I realized that I was influencing someone. I'm like, oh wait, you're doing that because of me. But being one, I realized that y'all aren't that scary. Y'all are normal people. And I stopped seeing like celebrities and stuff on as high of a pedestal. There's still people that I'd probably be intimidated to speak with, but that'd be like Patrick Stewart because he has such a wonderful command of English, and all that stuff. And I would just feel like an idiot talking to him. that would probably happen regardless. But I'm sure he'd be really nice about it. But just as an example, but like for instance, at NCMS when Caitlin Glass was
Hmm.
there, except for the fact that I was having major brain fog at the time, I didn't have a problem really talking with her, and she was really nice, and I just treated her like a normal person, um and yeah, it makes things a lot easier when you don't see someone as being on a pedestal, because then you don't see yourself as below them, and you don't stress about, well, what if I say the wrong thing?
Yeah.
Well, what if you say the wrong thing around your best friend? You just correct yourself.
Right, right. That's a great, yeah. I said the wrong thing and you don't give me a hard time, or you do in jest and we laugh about it. But yeah,
Mhm.
the being able to be comfortable in your own skin is, really a beneficial thing for people, which if we look at how many people are uncomfortable to show up in the church and they'll say things like, well, I could never do there because the church would catch on fire or lightning would strike or whatever phrase they say, they're really identifying they would not feel comfortable in that space. That space would cause them to feel less comfortable. So the ability to be comfortable at both Reach and NCMS isn't automatic. And in fact, what was funny is I had the opposite end of that experience with someone who finally, on the morning of the last day, had the courage to come up and talk to me. And I'm like, I do a podcast. I'm like the last person in the world I thought would do a podcast. So you're wanting to do a podcast? I would love to help you figure out doing a podcast. I would feel honored that you would even ask me about that. But they were like really like nervous and anxious and I could sense it. And it was like, some of it is being an introvert. Some of it is being, I know you in the space. Everyone else knows you. Who am I to come and talk to you? But
Yeah.
I never see Jesus with that attitude of, I'm too good to talk to anybody. He stops when the woman touches him, not to berate her, but to engage her because of her faith in that
And
conversation.
encourage her.
Right.
Yeah.
The woman caught in adultery, whether it's original to the text or not, for those who know the differences, I still think it's one of the most beautiful stories. He doesn't berate her. He meets her where she is. Zacchaeus, he meets him where he is. The blind men who were yelling out for him, he meets them where, like,
Mhm.
Jesus just meets people where they are. And it's like, we have to remember, like, if Jesus was in front of us, we'd probably feel really intimidated by, oh my goodness, it's Jesus. Do you know who this is? But nobody in the stories really treat him that way. He was just
Yep.
another guy walking around. Yeah, Zacchaeus, you called? Well played, friend. Well, you've been saving that name just for this occasion, and it's paid off. It's paid off.
But that's what I like best. I mean, I haven't watched all of the Chosen, and I'm not making any real statements about the Chosen per se. But in one of the first episodes, I don't remember, like the third episode or something, Jesus is sitting at a table, and somebody's father says, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" And he's sitting right there, and all
Hmm.
he does is smile and wink. And I'm like, see, that is probably what Jesus would be like for a lot of that sort of stuff. It's
Yeah,
just he would just be friendly and amiable about it.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
yeah,
think you're right on. We do this with all the apostles too on some level. We make them set apart and above us, and then we do that with religious leaders and church leaders. We set them apart. They're above us, and somewhat there's a level of honor for people who have taken the time to get education and other stuff. I'm not downplaying that at all. Totally gone that route. Understand it, but they still put their shoes on one foot at a time. Like, that's the
mhm,
only way they can do it. They put their socks on. We were talking about socks. They only put socks on one foot at a time. You can't do them both at the same time. If somebody can, I don't know how you're doing it. I don't have enough hands to put two socks on at the same time. Maybe two friends could help me, but that's going to be it. I'm putting them on one leg, one foot at a time. And that's the same way everyone else does it. So yeah, don't put me on a pedestal. I'll fall off is what's going to happen. And you can see that as we look around, that often people on pedestals end up falling from them. It's Zacchaeus, challenge accepted. No, friend, that's not a challenge. This, like, in some things I'll say yes, and but I do like that. That's actually one of my favorite, like, out of place. So you're using it the right way. Out of place. Nobody was issuing a challenge. Challenge accepted. So I'm gonna tell my wife about that one later.
That's something as far as a full pedestal, that's something I started learning in high school or early college the first time. And it's because back in high school, I had crushes. Well, I eventually realized the only way I had a crush is because I had set them on a pedestal and I didn't know who they really were.
Right.
And so at some point I decided I'm not going to have a crush anymore. If I like someone, I'm going to go talk to them and then there will be no more crush because either we'll start dating, which 90% of the time was not the case because I'll find out who they actually are and I don't like them as much as I thought.
Yeah, yeah. Which to piggyback in in the direction of NCMS and both Reach Conference, because I like as a pastor, I've gone to lots of conferences, so I'm not picking on any church conference leaders and those kinds of things. They're often tremendously huge conferences you might be at, and so they have a green room for all of the guests the speakers, who come in. They don't go out and talk to the crowd very often. They're often kept, behind scenes. They come out, they speak, they go. Otherwise, there might be some times you would engage, but they're not sitting in the audience with you throughout the whole conference. And at both of these conferences, the speakers, I keep wanting to say guests, the speakers are so humble. They're sitting in the aisle next to you. They're sitting in the pew, the chair next to you, having conversations with you. And you're like, you look familiar. Why do you look familiar? Because you saw them on the flyer that said they were going to be the speaker, and you can't place who they are. And then you're finally like, they get up and talk, and you're like, oh, they were sitting next to me and talking to me. They didn't put a barrier between coming to talk to me and had, the I'm trying to remember who it is, but there's plenty of musicians out there that get the reputation for these are the things that have to be in their green room. You have to have a jar of only red jelly beans in there. You can't have any other colors, just the red jelly beans. And you've got to have a bottle of this. And it's like all of these, demands. That's like, nah, these people are concerned with the kingdom. And they're excited about these group of people here who are trying to pursue God. And if there's anything I can give you to help you in that path, I want to learn just as much from you and sit alongside of you and get to know you because I can feed into what God is doing in you and encourage you and send you forth to do other stuff. So that is one of the things for me is the most fun thing to have when I'm going to conferences is engagement with the people that you would not automatically assume you're going to be able to have access to.
Yep, exactly. And they have the thing is, there's this dichotomy. They have like secrets that only they can really know. But the truth of the matter is, it's stuff you've already heard. I mean, it's coming from a slightly different angle, and you're like, oh, it does work. Oh,
Right.
but yeah, but some of it also is like I had said earlier about Jade. I mean, sometimes you just have an innate personality
Yeah.
for one thing, but for me, so I couldn't do the thing that like specifically his
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but I don't want to anymore because I know that I am me and I have my own set of people that I can talk to because I have a different set of experiences that I can relate to them with. But that is where their recommendation and that celebrity person's thought, well, I did this. Well, that would work for them because they have this trait that you may not have. So you need to do this other trick
Yep.
instead.
Yep. Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah. And they also they have a set, here's what I'm going to teach up front. And it's designed for the everybody to get a big picture, but only if they're sitting next to you can they narrow it down to the little thing that you actually need when they learn your circumstance, and they can give you personalized information to help you move in a direction or just personalized encouragement. Oh, it sounds exactly like you're in the right direction. Just keep sticking with it. Like hearing somebody who's further down the road to say, stick with what you're doing is
Mhm.
tremendously amazing to hear. Like, "Oh, I am on the right path. It doesn't feel like it. It'd be like, and there's different stories out there that talk about like plants that you have to water for a long time, bamboo being one of those. Like, you've got to water it repeatedly again and again and again, and it'll do all its growth. like in one period of time. It'll just grow overnight. Like, how patient do you have to be to water something and never see evidence of it growing and not give up, before it's time? And so, yeah, they can, people who've already made it, who've already done, oh yeah, you're watering every day, you're fine. Oh yeah, it's gonna take longer. Just stick with it. You're not, you don't need to switch what you're doing. Just keep being faithful to where you are right now.
Yeah, and speaking of being faithful, sometimes being the smaller streamer that I am, I can get into conversations that larger streamers cannot. I don't actually even follow most larger streamers. I was in the Reach thing on Tuesday, and they're mentioning these names. I'm like, I know that one name because it's huge personality, but I've never been in their stream, and I don't know any of these other names that you're talking about. But he's talking about huge secular people.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about. But I would not be able to have a conversation with them because there's like thousands of people in their chat,
Right, right.
you know? So it's it's not as much as, yeah, so smaller streamers are definitely a benefit, and I think that people who are aiming to be huge don't really understand what they have to give as a smaller streamer.
Well, that's absolutely, yeah. If you are too large, you cannot continue to do the things that you're doing in the way you're doing. You would have to adapt. You'd have to change. It might have to be passed over to mods. It might have to be passed over to Discord. It couldn't happen in the live space in the same way. I mean, there's different tiers, and to your point of, mentioning the bigger streamers, there are some people within reach totally capable of and probably will end up being in those realms. And we need some of them in those realms because
Mhm.
there are people who don't watch streamers who aren't big. So even if they can't engage directly with the streamer when the streamer is large, the streamer has to know how to engage when they're small so that they can actually be able to be a successful big streamer. So yeah, I love that whole aspect of thinking through that. Is there anything else within NCMS and within Reach Conference that was just like eye-opening or a blessing to be able to be a part of? We talked about how there's the overwhelming sense of being here and then the gradually feeling comfortable. Are there been some other lessons that you picked up from there?
Um, I really think that the biggest one was just taking people off the pedestal. Like, the first time I ever interacted with Susie was in person,
Mm.
and, like, I may have turned on a stream, like, once or twice, but I just must have been an awkward thing or something. I didn't stay for very long, but I'd only ever heard of him as, like, this big streamer, like, the Susie or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah,
huge
yeah.
thing, and so I was really intimidated, so I was probably looking really uncomfortable, but eventually when I did interact with him, he's the most friendliest person, and yeah, I think that that is what is the biggest thing really, was just it brought people down I brought people down off of their pedestals because they were all just really nice, down to earth people in general. It's absolutely wonderful to be able to hear all of their insights as they're speaking to everybody, but it really is the like what you said, that being able to talk to them individually. When you see someone in person, you have more of a connection to where it's easier to talk to them on Discord in a DM because it just feels like you actually know them a little bit better. Even if that might not really be the case, it just kind of feels that way. So they're on their side as well. So then they're more like, hey, yeah, to contact me and we will talk about how to do a cosplay something or other, or just anything, and just realizing that technically I have all of these connections now, even though still a relatively shy and nervous introvert that I don't necessarily think that I can contact these people. I still know that I have these contacts that I can utilize if I need to.
Well,
Like if I'm having an issue, I can be like, okay, so I know that this person already does this well. Maybe they'll guide me through a couple of hints.
yeah, absolutely. And I will say that I still end up with that too. So I was just having a conversation with my former pastor. meeting with him, talking through stuff, and he was trying to talk through, well, who do you have connections? And I'm like, well, I have these connections over here. And he goes, have you reached out to him? No. I didn't know if it was okay to reach out and ask them. And he's like, dude, you know them. Reach out to them. You know what's even more is if what you want to do is this, then learn the people doing it and then get in their sphere of influence. So if they have a Facebook group, if they have a blog post, if they have, start getting yourself in the community so that you're known, and then reach out to them so that you're not reaching out cold. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I know this stuff. Why is it that it's so much easier to teach someone else and to tell them and encourage them and then end up doing the same thing myself? Like, yeah, I'm intimidated to talk to that person on this topic. Other topics, no, but on this topic, I feel like I'm imposing. I feel like I'm trying to take advantage of. I feel like you've done this, and I'm just trying to ride your coattails or some way. And
Right. Oh man, I feel that one a lot.
yeah. So it's like, oh, this is like, I'm right there. Like this is like fresh for me in the last week, and I still haven't contacted everyone I need to in that regard. But now it's been on the stream. So by the time the podcast comes out, I need to have it done. There we go. There's my
There you go.
deadline of reaching, because it's intimidating on some level to say, I want to ask you for help, and maybe I'm too small and you don't have time to help me. That's an intimidating piece when it's something new that you're trying to do. And so on the other side, just want to encourage anyone listening to this podcast, reach out to anybody that's been on the podcast. Like that's one place where I don't really feel intimidated. Like I'll ask anybody to be on the podcast. I just who do I ask next? There's so many people, which by the way, we were just mentioning Susie. And so I do have that one scheduled coming out soon, that Susie will be on the podcast. I think a week from Monday is when that one's going to be. So that's going to be fun to have him on and talking about 10 years with XP Church. So
Yeah, I can't even imagine, because I don't feel like I've been streaming for that long. Feel like I've only been streaming for like 2 years. That's what I feel like, but it's really been like more like 4.5. And so I can't even imagine what it'd be like as a doing it for 10 years and having it be an actual business that's doing well, and all the people helping and all that. It seems so big, and I'd look forward to hearing that one.
yeah, well, and the part that I'm excited about is, how did you see this before everyone else did? Because Susie's a pioneer to go out and to say, we're going to have a church in Twitch. We're going to do it. Like nobody, it's not like, you showed up to Twitch and you're like, oh, wow, there's a bunch of churches here. I bet I could start one too. It was, hey, this is what God's calling me to. And so I'm going to do it and pursuing that. And man, I just can't wait to hear more of that story. And I'm sure he's told it a lot of times, but around the point of celebrating 10 years, because, hey, regular church plants don't always make it 10 years. How about doing something totally innovative and making it to the point of 10 years? VRMMO Church also is 10 years old this year as well. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, they'll be celebrating in June. They'll be doing a celebration in June. And those that don't know VRMMO Church, we've had Pastor Coco on here. Pastor Alina has been on the other Church.digital podcast, hasn't been on my podcast, but they have a church that is in Rec Room. They have a church in VR Chat, and they have a church in Final Fantasy 14. So the church that is in Rec Room is closing because Rec Room is closing. So they won't make it to June, I believe June 1st. So later this month will be the final. If you're in Rec Room, you've never checked them out, you want to help them celebrate, that'll be closing. And then in June, there'll be their celebration. I don't remember the date of it, but you can go find that out and celebrate with them. So hopefully I'll get Pastor DJ Soto on the podcast after they get done with their 10-year celebration. I'll do that towards the end of summer and see if I can. I just love watching innovative people. And it's not so much that they're innovative, they're listening to the Spirit when the Spirit nudges them. That's what I really see. Like they are willing to go when the Spirit says go. And some of us are like, nah, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, there's a burning bush and all, but Egypt, I've been there before. I don't know if I want to go back. Like,
Yeah.
some of us have a lot of excuses.
Yeah. For me personally, I just wonder if I'm hearing God's voice.
Mhm.
I suspect I am, but maybe not. But also I'm hearing, I don't know. I can't tell. And so then I start wondering like, well, do I do this option or that option? And they both seem reasonable, and which is why I'm trying to get better at spending time with God.
Yeah.
So I can know that I'm hearing the right way, cuz I figure if I know for sure, I can I can at least tell myself, well, I might not like it, but it is the way that God has told me to go, and I trust that He knows what's going on and He has the best for me.
Yeah, and not everyone necessarily hears from God the same way, but one of the ways that I think he does is when you share with trusted people around you, they see and are in agreement with it. It doesn't mean everybody in every circumstance is going to be that way. For instance, if you're suddenly hearing that you're going to go to seminary and you're taking your only grandkids away from your mother, she might not be saying, yes, I hear God saying that, because she's got reasons to say, no, you need to stay here. So you do need to, like my mom in other cases, and yeah, that's happened to me. My mom in other cases, yeah, was hearing and was a person that I would ask. Not every time do I go to the same people. So you need to know and have discernment about who you can trust in this circumstance and situation. If you're feeling called to be doing something in streaming, go talk to people that are doing something in streaming. Don't go talk to your church pastor who only thinks that being in person counts. Like, you're not going to get wisdom from him because he doesn't see the same things that other people will see. The other thing for me, the way that I describe hearing from God is it sounds a whole lot like my voice and my idea, but it's not actually something I want to do. So it's like, oh, I should do that. I don't want to. That's probably God leading me to do something because I'm not rushing to do it. It is for the kingdom. It's not for myself. It benefits other people. So I'm checking off all the things. It's not anything nefarious. It's not anything bad, but it's something yeah, you should go do that. And I go, I don't want to. And I go, that's definitely from God, not from me. So that's one of those ways that I hear him is like, man, why do I got to do that? I don't want to. Like, yeah, yes, I get whiny with God and I do argue with the Holy Spirit. So that's what I sound like, really, when I argue with God. So,
I'm trying to get better at doing more of that, actually. But one thing did come to mind when you said that, and it's less that it would be uncomfortable right now to do that thing, and more that that would put a fire under my butt.
yeah,
And so in that sense, I would be uncomfortable if I did that thing.
yeah. Well, and there are other
So,
times too
yeah.
where two choices are before you and they're both good choices, and God is just giving you the freedom to choose. So it's not like every time something is a right choice and a wrong choice. God can be giving you multiple choices. The only time it's a problem is when God says go to Nineveh and you go, not happening. You can't
Right, yeah.
make me go to Nineveh. I'll show you. Then you're in the wrong. That's when you got to worry. So otherwise,
Yeah.
you know, maybe you go slower, but you keep moving in that direction. You do the Gideon, and you have the fleece out there to get reassurance and do it again. By the way, I happen to think that the fleece for Gideon was to assure the army, not to assure Gideon. I think Gideon was
Mm.
convinced he was supposed to be there. The fleece was for the army, to prove to the army that God had chosen him. But I might be a little bit off in that, but that's how I see it.
Okay. It's been a while since I've read it, so I'm not going to make an opinion on that.
Well, I'm just saying that because some people in the chat might be going, wait, I've never heard that viewpoint.
Well, I haven't heard it either.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think of Gideon's fleece as being a bad thing. So it says you shall not test God, but you sometimes you need to test to make sure it is God. But sometimes, like what you said, you check off the things. It's not against any of God's laws. It'll benefit people. And you start going that route too.
That's one thing that everyone thinks about as a streamer. There are places and things that you do need to make decisions about, and you do need to have discernment about, and we've had plenty of people on the podcast who talk about, yeah, I thought I was going to be a Twitch streamer or something else in life. I was going to pursue this thing and it was going to be me and all about me, and I wanted all the praise and the accolades and all of that stuff on myself. That's where some people are at, and it's like, yeah, those temptations are still there as a streamer. Like, am I streaming to be an influencer, or am I streaming to use my influence to build up other people? Hey, Samarella, welcome in. Good to see you, friend.
And I'm not a pastor, but hello. That is one thought I've had I mean, not lately, but have wanted to go to seminary. It is a thought I have had, but at where I am currently, going back to school is not one of the thoughts. I'll just tell you what it is in a vague term. Paying off a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what that means is right now I'm living off savings. That
Yeah.
means I will suddenly have a lot less savings,
Right.
which means that I have to choose either find a way to make streaming profitable or something, or get a job,
Yeah.
which I don't 100% know if I have the spoons for, at least not full time yet. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure, since it's the one last debt I have, I'm pretty sure God would prefer if I was debt free, but also it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, and that goes to, is what God calling you to do is trust him, or what you're doing is holding on to something that you feel is a safety net. And this is one of those conversations I have had over the last 3 years with a bunch of streamers. And I'm not saying I have the answer for you of which it is, but that's one of the things that Pastor Scar talked about when he was at NCMS, the first one in Marble Falls, is where he was at. He was going to be radically changing and doing some things different, which meant telling some of the people that were his financial backers, I'm doing this and you want me to go in a different direction. And you've said, unless I go in this direction, the money is going to be gone. My team has said, they are fine. They will go find something else to do. We need to keep going in the direction God's called you as the streamer to go in, and not trust in the money, because the money was going to move a different direction. And I'm going, wow, that is an incredibly risky thing to do. And the thing he said was, are you willing to trust God again? And that's the part that got me again. I've done it before. Now I just want the comfort. I want to live in the comfort zone. I don't want to step out and trust. So that was true for me when he was saying that. And I'm saying that's true for other streamers I've had conversations with. This could also just be something it's just good financial advice. And that's what you're wrestling with is the financial piece. It doesn't have to do with trust. It's just like, oh, this is good stewardship. So whatever it is, is one of the things you wrestle with.
Technically, all financial people have told me not to pay it off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the difference between good financial advice and stewardship.
Yeah.
Because all of the because right now, since it's my student loans, right now I only have to pay $4 a month. So it's not a problem right now because I'm not making an income. But it is technically a debt, and it would be better if I was debt free.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say I know what the answer is. I mean, that's something to continue to wrestle through. And yeah, I could see where financially they're saying, like, you're only paying this much. Why would you, go in that direction?
Yeah.
But if you're
But if I had a job, then I actually could contribute to it
yeah,
in a more regular and
yeah,
take it down that way. So that's
yeah.
why, as I have all these things going through my head, and which is why I'm like, God, tell me which way to go.
The
Because
the one place where I'll end this conversation around, and then Samarella had something she wanted to share, is when I make the decision around things, and then I've like firm, this is it. I almost always have this amazing amount of peace that's like, yep, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I don't get, down the road and then suddenly go, I'm doubting this. I maybe made the wrong choice. But sometimes it's taken me a long time to make the decision. I didn't rush the decision. I spent a long time and I played through and I couldn't get to a right answer in any way. And then suddenly something happened and forced me into making a decision. And then I knew what the right one was when I got there. So that's kind of one of those things.
Okay.
So, Samarella, you have something to share with you guys, if you may. And this is one of the best things that's happened to me this month, besides being cancer-free. Not that I'm bragging here, but I'm like, we're celebrating with you being cancer-free,
Right?
Samarella.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not bragging. That is praise God. You pitched in something with the local charity that helps local schools, homeless, and people in need, like in real need. And today they got back to me with an update, and you're excited about it. Super cool, Samarella.
Nice.
I'm so happy to hear. I mean, for those
That's wonderful.
those that don't know, if you go back on some of our other podcast episodes, Samarella stops by occasionally. A year ago, somewhere around there after a surgery, they were telling her she couldn't have another one. There were some complications, and she was basically given less than 6 months to live. So for Samarella to have now had another surgery, to be cancer-free, and to have recovery from the surgery going well, this is all praise and thanks to God and those of you who've been praying for and know Samarella. So we are super excited. And yeah, we know you're not bragging. We know this is all praise to God and what he's doing. And I'm excited to hear what you're going to be able to do and connect with this local connection. And that sounds amazing, Samarella. Thanks for sharing that. I'm excited.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Yeah, we were just talking about guidance and wisdom and hearing from God and how do we listen and some of those kinds of things, and then trying to relate that to some things in our life and then relate those two things as streamers and what do we think through and how do we do those things. And you know, with NCMS, because it's more fresh in my mind because it just happened, but it would have been true also at Reach Conference. I end up with tons of conversations with people just talking about what is the step forward, what is the path forward that's in front of them, the decision that they're at, or the thing they've already started pursuing. And now it's like, am I right? Am I stepping in the right direction? And there was just so much at NCMS this year that just felt like people that were there in Marble Falls, that were also there in Colorado Springs. So a few of us that this is our third time going, there was just this camaraderie of being able to see, oh, I remember where you were and where you are and where I can see you going. It was just like this really beautiful thing that doesn't happen really that often at conferences, where you chat with people, you talk polite things, you learn something, you chat about that. There was this connectedness of, oh, I remember, you know, when you got started, like one of the people was, hey, I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this or not. And there was a stream deck that was being given away. And it was kind of like, well, God, if I win that, I know that I'm supposed to be going in this direction doing it. And they won the stream deck. And it was like, yeah. And now you're here from there because you've continuously pursued faithfully what God has drawn you to and where you're going. And as I was mentioning, Pastor Scar was there. And that was with a month of knowing that I was not going to have a paycheck, and was I going to continue to step into streaming. And also I was starting a prayer booth in my local artisan market. And it was like, okay, do I trust to go? And I don't have a regular paycheck since then. I still haven't had a regular paycheck. The thing for me was I wanted to sit down and put all of my assets on paper, calculate out my bills, and find out how many days I was going to survive. That's what I wanted to know is when, and it was like, are you going to trust God again? And I was like, I don't want to. But what God said is, you can't sit and look at your budget and like, which is this bad financial advice. You can't sit and look at your bills, and you can't look at your bank account and tell me when it's going to end. We're not doing that. You're either following me or you're not following me in this journey. And so there's a bit of that feels like, yeah, I'm still on this journey, which is not the way that the worldly wisdom tells you to do things, and pursuing being, and like, I had no idea, like a podcast wasn't what I was thinking at that time. I mean, I've barely been doing the podcast over a year. Wasn't even thinking that at the beginning of last year even. So I love what I'm doing right now though. And that's not replaceable by any income in some ways.
Yeah. I see that Samarella had a response.
Yeah, so Samarella, basically, you're going to be making a storyboard art that will show a story of people with having their good and happy times. And it's going to be like in a way where I keep reminding people that no matter how hard life gets and how much hardship we have, love and goodness is always there to remind us one thing, and that is to keep pushing through and moving on, keeping those good moments to remind us it is not the end. And if that makes sense. Absolutely. That makes perfect sense, Samarilla. Oh, that's so beautiful. And by the way, I was just cutting some shorts and reels earlier today, and the podcast with Mama Brick Builds came out this morning on Spotify and Apple. It was already on YouTube, but now it's on Spotify and Apple. And the thing that you wrote there that I read is one of the clips that's going to be out either today or tomorrow from you. So this just resonates with me again, Samarilla. I just love hearing the change in your life in the last 2 years, as 2.5 years, I guess, as I've gotten to know you and see what God is up to. Rather imagining things to make a story, I pitched in to use one's own story that has good and happy moments, hoping it shows that no matter how bad things get, reminder. Absolutely. Love that. And if you have that in a storyboard with pictures that you're able to share, I would love if you're able to put links in Discord and share those things. That would be super awesome to be able to be inspiring to other people. So, Samarilla, that's just so awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. I think a lot of us need that more than we think we do. I just made an order off of Temu just because sometimes I find random stuff and I want to see what's whatever. But some of the stuff that I found on there were stickers that said things like, well, what if it turns out for the best? And I can do hard things. I don't know where I'm going to put them, but I want to have things like that in front of me more often to remind me of all the positive things that could happen instead of any doom or gloom that might be stuck in my head.
Yeah. When I was down at the artisan market, one of the things I did have was stickers down there for people to be able to buy and have little things on them, or they were just beautiful to look at, like flowers or something like that, a cat or something. So, yeah, having a little thing, and I have lots of stickers, but having ones that have a more of a message that are just kind of a pick me up is a wonderful way to be able to bless other people or to remind yourself of those things.
Yeah, I really think that a lot of people that's that because well, at least for me personally, growing up, had a lot of negative fed into my self-recording. If I don't I've heard people call it a bunch of different stuff, so it's not coming out my mouth,
Oh,
effectively.
that's a good way to say it, a self-recording. Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing that goes through your head about yourself, and, so I've been purposefully working on making those things positive, like how you might say, "Oh, man, I'm an idiot." Instead of that, I'll say, "I feel like an idiot," because then I'm not. But I feel like it right now, and then eventually turned that into, um, saying other things like, "Man, I don't like how I did that," or, and just step by step changing it to not be as negative on myself.
Yeah.
I've noticed that sometimes if I feel too, well, not too, but if I feel, like, close to someone, I might be like, "Yeah, I don't like it when you say negative things about yourself like that," and I know that and they're just in the same sort of place where they're saying it and it doesn't that they don't really feel it as negative, but, for me, I'm like, "I don't like hearing you say negative things about yourself. Thanks."
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
and that kind of ties in a little bit with Samarella as well, of taking your own experience and then redeeming it in a way to help other people going through a similar experience. So if this is what you had a lot of negative self-talk, you had a lot of negative recordings in your mind from what other people said around you, and now you are changing that attitude and behavior in yourself. You now begin to be in a space where you can help other people see that in their own life and then change and adapt so that you're not facing the same thing. So totally can absolutely see, but it's hard to help other people until you've helped yourself.
Mhm. And sometimes they don't want the help, but you can't help them at all in that case.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you're in the wallowing in negativity of my alarm clock broke this morning and the weather is bad and the thermostat was turned off and my spouse left the gas tank empty and whatever, like you can just do that all day long and always focus on negative, and you can surround yourself with people that will do the same thing. Really hard to get out of that kind of a spiral until you have someone help you get out of that kind of a spiral. But we do have to want to be, like you were saying, you have to want to. So you can address it and say, hey, I think you're having negative thoughts and negative sayings. I don't really appreciate when you say that about yourself. I think more about you than that. So it's a friendly invitation into it, because you can say, I've been there before. So you know how to say that in a way to hopefully help people out of it.
Hopefully, but there are still things that come through my head, but I am actively working on those.
So TCD Care is trying to help people in our first group. So eventually we want to get into some addiction recovery stuff, but we know that there's a bigger issue with people that just are struggling in life. And we think people should thrive. And so one of those ways is to help take and evaluate yourself. And so it's an intentional 6 to 8 month journey in same-sex groups. So you can go back a couple of months and listen to the podcast with Stacy Knapp, Sumi Beat. She was actually in the chat earlier. I don't know if she's still lurking, but she is going to be helping with that. Romans, I can remember not Romans from Reach Conference, but Romans 10 something XP. I can never remember the numbers.
I think he's a doctor. So Romans calls him Dr. Romans.
Okay.
Differentiate.
Okay. Yeah. So he's going to be helping as well with that. So a couple of people that are in the Twitch space are going to be helping us, Pastor Coco as well. So having those care groups that are focused on Thrive, which is material that's been developed by an organization in South Africa. So we've got, people with wisdom. They've done this before. We've got trained people, and we just want to do it right. So those will be launching soon. So I'm glad to get you connected in that, to help you evaluate your own thinking, your own processing, those kinds of things, and be able to just move into a space where you are vibrant and thriving in life. And I think that's a wonderful thing for people to be striving to do. So
Yeah. I have this reminds me of a shirt that I wear from time to time, except that now I put it's a white shirt and I put it in with darks, and so now it just looks kind of dirty all the time. But it says be kind. And then it also says everyone is going through a struggle that you know nothing about.
yeah.
Because even though I don't fully understand how I come across, but I generally assume that I come across a lot more positive than I sometimes feel. And I really feel like going through this care process will help me with some of the childhood trauma stuff, not like the actual trauma per se, but I know that there's symptoms of it that can be fixed. I just need help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is, I guess, an intentional 6 to 8 month journey. And so it's not in a rush. It'll be with a private group. Nobody will know anything. Confidentiality will be part of it. And yeah, what also we hope it spreads. Like we want this to spread throughout the Twitch, ecosystem. As we were talking about, the Christian streamers are starting to spread. We're running into some we didn't know about. We're networking. We want this to be one of those things that we can help pass into the ecosystem that becomes a part of a lot of communities that are able to bless people. Samarella adding another piece, just resonating with you. Most of the time, you used to be like, people are not going to accept me for who I am. I'm going to be hated always and stuff. But I realized I have these only because of surrounding yourself with listening to toxic people and similar relationships with people. Yeah. And it's one of those things that some people are really abusive to other people, and they want to keep you around to be able to be abused by them. And when you try to get yourself better, the people that are going to attack you when you're trying to make yourself better, those are probably the people that are you're better off at a distance in your life. I'm not saying without. You can only make the decision and where you need to keep yourself safe and where you set boundaries. And sometimes it is excluding from certain parts of your life, and sometimes it's excluding from all of it. Sometimes it's for a season, and sometimes it's until you can accept certain things and the way I'm doing them that's different than you. And so the like, man, I don't know how to say this because I don't want to downplay it, because I do have lots of friends who struggled with this all the way through high school. I don't even know the number of friends I had that ended up in the facility for mental health, having tried to attempt taking their life or talking about it, depression. I had dozens and dozens of friends. It just wasn't my experience for the most part. For the most part, my experience was I didn't care what people thought about me. I didn't want to be like everyone else. I wanted to be different. But it also, even though that wasn't my experience, I still have similar struggles. I still had, when I was in high school, a couple of times where I did seriously think about, yeah, maybe ending my life would be easier. So even when you are the opposite, when you are the person that doesn't regard what other people say, you can be lonely that way. You can be isolating yourself that way. You can end up with very similar damaging pieces in life that you are owning that you shouldn't, that could be harmful to you. So I love that idea of that shirt. I have one that I wear from local mental health program that we have in my area called Be Nice. And so I like wearing the shirt that says Be Nice, because we should be nice to people.
I agree. And there's a shirt that I've seen recently that I'm thinking about getting, but I don't know. I'm just slow to buy merch sometimes, but isn't very merchy, I don't think. But what it says is clarity is kindness. And
Mm,
it's a reference to how autistic people, this is specifically for an autistic YouTube channel,
yeah.
how autistic people don't necessarily understand what you mean when you use common colloquialisms or whatever.
Oh, I know.
So, an example was someone was getting on the phone. This is a skit. Someone with autism got onto a phone and was making an appointment for themselves, but they just were just walking around on the phone and happened to walk up next to somebody who was trying to work. And in the first half of the skit, that person responded with, "Do you have to be standing here?" And the person's like, I'm making a phone call." They didn't understand.
Right.
But the clarity part was, "I'm trying to work and what you're doing is distracting.
Mm.
Can you stand over there?" And they were fine with it because now they understood what was going on.
Yeah,
They just hadn't realized that they had been started becoming a distraction.
that's a good example. And I will admit, I am one of the first people to be bringing as many references as I can to pop culture or movies or comedians from 40 years ago. So it doesn't have any relevance for a lot of people. In fact, what's really funny is how often my kids didn't know that what I was talking about was actually a real reference to something, because they'd never seen it. They'd never actually heard it. And then later they learn all those things. So those aren't beneficial unless the audience knows it. Now, my stream thinks it's funny at times because some of them know it, and then there's younger people that don't. And that makes it fun and funny that haha, I'm old enough to get these things. But if we're trying to communicate, those are not helpful at all. Yeah,
No.
the you didn't get what I meant by this. And sometimes our politeness actually gets in the way of clarity.
Mhm. Exactly. And, there have been plenty of times that I just don't really I don't fully understand something. Like, for example, we had that conversation at Reach, how excuse me, NCMS, and just before that, I had had a similar conversation where I'm like, "Okay, I can't talk about this right now because 'cause it'll just make me start crying, so I can't handle it." But the strength of that person's reaction, where they literally took, like, 3 steps back, it's like, "Oh, no, 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 that's okay, that's okay." I did not understand why they had such a large reaction, and they never talked to me the rest of the thing. And
Mm,
I'm like, "Okay, I don't understand. Did I say something weird, or did they read into it something?" I just still don't understand what happened there. They seemed like a nice person. I was just saying I can't talk about it right now because right now is a bad time to start crying again.
Yeah.
But,
Well, and it could have also, to not have you read into it, it could have been coincidental that they never got back around to talking to you because they
oh,
got
yeah.
they got busy connecting with other people, and it wasn't like, okay, I'm not going to ever go talk to her. It was just like they weren't sitting next to you, they weren't stuck in the same, in the same sphere
Mhm.
through the rest of the conference, so the opportunity never presented itself again, so they just left, but leave you in the lurch going, did I say something wrong?
Right, and I don't necessarily take it that way, I'm just saying I don't know
Right.
because we never talked again, and I in fact, I didn't barely saw them, which is probably they weren't around, right? So it's not it's I'm not taking it personally, I'm just wondering why was it so strong? And like, days later when I was thinking about it, I'm like, if I was present of mind, which I obviously wasn't if I was in a place where I was on the verge of crying, but if I had the presence of mind, maybe I could have asked, "Why was your" and but that also would have been awkward.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing is if I would have asked, "So why is your reaction so strong?" That's awkward, but also it's clarity, so it's just kind of one of those weird.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and the other side of that, because you and I have had these chances to chat in person and continuing to do that with people that I do that, I find I will suddenly share stuff I don't share with other people. Like this level of we've established trust with each other, we've established relationship with the other, and now I'm going to share something because it feels appropriate, it feels okay to divulge something more about myself that you might not know, to share with you something that's a little bit deeper. And I had plenty of those conversations with people at NCMS, I was not planning on saying anything to. In fact, one was really, really odd. Was an occasion where I was the roommate that I was staying with. We had chats throughout the week talking about our kids, but we didn't really talk in depth about our kids' lives and what's going on in their lives, other than what they do and some things like that, because we've got adult kids. And we talked about ourselves and some things in ministry, but we didn't go into details in depth because both of us have had church hurt, but we weren't
Mhm.
there to talk about our own stuff. So then we end up running into each other at the airport the next day when we're all leaving, and we're like, hey, so we start talking, and then all of a sudden now we talk, like, the conference is over, all of that's there's no one else around, we start talking about the church hurt, and we start talking about the kids hurt, and it's like,
Mhm.
wow, we have a whole lot more in common than we knew, and we didn't talk about this all week long because it wasn't time yet. It wasn't a safe space yet. Now, because we've established this and we've trusted each other, and now it's like, oh wow, this was really good for both of us to be able to get in that space. And I just find, like, as I go to conferences and see people again and again, even though I may not, and the chat isn't necessarily the right place to do it. On stream isn't necessarily the right place to do it. Discord can be if you're in the same Discord servers together, and I don't mean just DM. I mean, within a community, you can get into those deep levels of vulnerability and sharing and empathy and being able to say, yeah, we're doing life together, even in the painful pieces that we face as a parent or a pastor or a sibling or a child. There's difficulties that we all face in life.
Yeah, I think I I sometimes feel like I might go there a little earlier than most
Mm.
people, but also I think that can. This is me like discussing both sides in my head.
Mm.
I can feel like that can sometimes open it up so that other people are more comfortable with sharing
Oh yeah.
things about themselves.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I worry that I hit the line a little wrong and go a little, make someone uncomfortable. But I think that for me, being a little more on the edge of being open and vulnerable a little bit can I mean, I don't know where I can find some wisdom. Everyone has a little bit of wisdom. Maybe random person at Walmart I happen to say, "Hey, that mac and cheese looks like it could be da 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 da."
Right, right.
Maybe they have a random piece of wisdom about mac and cheese that I wouldn't have thought about,
Well, yeah,
but
but part of it too is, and some of this is why Twitch, I think, succeeds really well, is you have a piece of connectivity. If you both play the same game, you both love the same game, you have a natural connection to begin with. So it's already a barrier taken down in relationships. So there's that piece of it. We both love, like, whatever your game is. If you're a 1-2 game person where, like, your World of Warcraft, that's what you play. You're showing up. You're not playing anything else. You don't do anything else. You just World of Warcraft. So you're there with your peeps that are World of Warcraft. You know who they are. You're good to go. So if that's you, I'm much more open already because we're in the circle of people that are that way. But you're right. There's a level
Yep.
at which some of us are, and I am usually fostering openness, but I find it sometimes, like, if you look at all my hats back here, okay, I'll use my hats as an analogy. There's some hats I wear every week. I keep going back to the same hats. I keep putting the same hats on. I'm going to wear the same ones. There's some, like one of my favorites right there, which is a repurposed, recycled coffee bean bag. Not because I don't love it. I don't want it to ever wear out. So I will wear that one sparingly because I don't ever want it to go bad. So it never goes on vacation with me. The one exception was when I brought it to speak at Reach Conference, to have it there for that, to show it as part of, like, that's it. That's the only time it's ever been on an airplane. It stays when I leave the house and when I come home. It's not getting lost. It's not going to disappear. But all of that to say is, I do the same thing with my vulnerability. There's vulnerability that I will wear easily and share and open up, and I do it repeatedly, and I have the story, and I know how I'm going to respond, and I know the reactions. And there's other vulnerabilities I have to know that it's trusting to be able to do this. One of the things I don't talk about very often is the hat right here is my stepdad's hat. I don't know that it's off a screen for people seeing. You're not going to see it. Sorry. But it's his hat.
it's fine on my
It's
screen.
fine on your screen. Okay. I don't talk about him that often. And when I went to NCMS, I had the most wonderful ball, and I mean ball by blubbering, sobbing. I watched Soul Song Blues on the airplane, and Neil Diamond was one of my stepdad's favorite. So I wasn't prepared for this, but as soon as the song starts singing, I just start bawling. I'm just tearing up. Like, all of these emotions just come running out. And it's such a good movie. I loved the movie. And then there's a sad ending in some ways, but it's also a beautiful ending. It was a true, lovely movie from itself, but I had this whole emotional connection because of him to it. And I was like, how do I share that with anybody else? I can't tell the person next to me on the plane why I'm bawling. This isn't going to make a lick of sense to them in any capacity. So one of the first things I did when I landed was shared with a couple of family members. Just saw this movie, brought me to tears, reminded me of Dad, and shared that because they would know and understand. And some of that's like, you don't get that with every level. So vulnerability has a lot of levels to it, but we practice, I think, in some levels with things that we know are safe. And if they're not treated safe, we're still okay. But other things, we have to let you say, oh, you mistreated something I gave you that was a vulnerability. You didn't treat it with safety. Now I can't trust you with really hard stuff that's still painful, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's definitely things that are behind closed doors for me, and then things that are even in the closet. I guess
Yeah.
for as far as that goes,
Yep.
that that are just one room deeper, and so I completely understand that. I can kind of understand that just unexpected random things can sometimes make you cry. I like the reason why I was on the verge of crying at NCMS is because just the whole experience and the worship music and all that just reminded me of my ex, and he's a singer, he does the worship stuff, and so I just at that moment, that was just I wanted him to be there, but if he would have been there, it would have been weird anyway because we weren't dating anymore. But uh, it just felt like a sort of situation where with him not being there, his not being there was even more apparent.
Right. Right, that makes sense, and we never know at times what might just trigger us. Like, I had no idea, like, "Oh, this is gonna be a great movie." Didn't know the movie was gonna trigger me. I wasn't even thinking about the movie triggering me in any way. Like you wouldn't put a trigger warning on, "Hey, if your stepdad passed away and he loved Neil Diamond, don't watch this on a plane in front of the public because 'cause you're gonna be like, there's, like, who puts that, so but I also wanna just say to anybody listening to this, that's that's not embarrassing for me. And one of the things I try to tell people as often as I can as a pastor when they start crying and they apologize is there is no need to apologize at all for crying because something has happened and your body and your emotions and your spirit and whatever level deep it is for you is all responding in a natural way, and there's nothing wrong with that. So you don't need to apologize for tears when you have those. And I was just watching a movie. No, it wasn't a movie, it was a show. And a bigger brother was telling his younger brother when he was telling him he was going to have to go do something that was horrible and all this. And don't you cry. Don't you dare cry. I'll take care of you myself if you cry. And it was like, what a horrible thing to tell people is don't have emotions and be real. Like, and I'm not saying there aren't times where this is inappropriate for me to be crying here. I need to compose myself. To compose myself, I might need to leave. I'm totally understanding etiquette and those kinds of things. I'm simply saying most people have this natural tendency to apologize because they actually cried in public or they cried in somebody else's presence. And I think that's not a healthy thing to do, to apologize if you're just having emotions that bring you to that. Like, tell me about what's going on for you. That's what our response should be, not the other person having to apologize for it.
I agree. And the concept that in a lot of ways crying for girls, females, women is socially acceptable.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to me that I'm not gonna say the name of the streamer, but if you know him, you probably know who I'm talking about. But there's a particular stream I was in the other day, and he was crying. He's saying how he didn't want to cry, and it made him feel like less of a man, and things like that. And I'm like, that's really unfortunate
Yeah.
because you're not. In fact, I think that having a touch with being in touch with your emotions is a good thing as a man or a woman. I just being in his chat, I could only do so much, but I really just kind of wanted to put my hand on his shoulder and be like, "You okay? Just let it out. It's good. It's
Yeah.
fine."
And that's part of the reason why I brought that up too, is because so many boys get the message that men don't cry. So
Mhm.
they are working towards the point at which they can hold it in and not show it, which I think is unhealthy. Also, if you're going to hide and mask that emotion, you begin to hide and mask other emotions, and you don't always let the healthy emotions, show. So it probably is something that was part of the growing up, and this is, I don't want to say indoctrinated, it's socialized into the behavior that feels like, and I do think that's why often I run into people apologizing for it. They feel it's necessary to apologize for it until they get taught it's not. And so to say I feel like less of a man because I'm crying is socialized. And until you can break that, people are going to confess that even if it's not true.
Right. And going back to our talking about the stuff you tell yourself when
Yeah.
you apologize when you don't need to like that, you're just reminding your your subconscious that you need to apologize.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I love how you brought that back in of where we've been in the conversation. That's so much fun when you have these long conversations of how many times we weave the things back into what we were talking about before. And so I'm looking at our time and thinking we need to start moving in the direction of wrapping up. And we had started to go in the direction of maybe some things you're looking forward to in the future. And then you said you'll save those for later. So I'll just set you up for that. What are some things that you're looking forward to, maybe experimenting with, trying new things, or you're working to do or excited about starting this year?
As far as streaming, I'm still kind of just toying with things. I haven't had a whole lot. I've been struggling with a lot of stuff the last year, especially. It's just kind of been amping up. It's something that I think we need to talk about on the other side of the gender thing. None of us, even as women, are taught about menopause and how young it can start. It can start in lower to mid 30s, even. And some doctors don't even fully comprehend that. But it's been ramping up for me since I was about 32, 32, 33, something like that. So, which I didn't know at the time. I thought I was like, I just needed more meds or whatever. But at this point, it just is making my ADHD feel a whole lot worse. So it's just a whole lot harder to do things, which is why I'm working on getting my sleep schedule stabilized, getting a workout routines. But anyway, I need these spoons, this dopamine, this ability to be able to accomplish the things that I want to do. And so I'm not entirely sure if I can. But one thought is to more move toward more like spooky sort of things to focus more on the audience that I really want. I watched a where was it? I recently heard someone say that your audience is probably a lot like you. I'm like, well, if my audience is a lot like me, and then add the things that I want to help my audience with, they would probably be playing these types of games and be interested in watching these types of games. So I might be moving that direction. There's a lot of little fun technological things I want to be adding to my stream. I realized as people were coming in and shout outs were happening that I don't have my visual shout out set up on this
Mm.
scene. But they were popping up in in the chat. But that's streamer.bot, and that has been a lot of fun. Especially, it turns out I must have come in after they did a huge update that made it a lot more user friendly. So I'm really enjoying it so far, and I'm looking forward to digging into it more. But I need to be able to focus to be
Yeah.
able to do that. I mean, at this point, sometimes I'm having conversation with ChatGPT and I can't even read the first paragraph because I'm already like my brain is like, that's not enough dopamine. I gotta go. And I'm like, but this is a conversation because I want to know this information. And it's already doing that. But that's the sort of thing I would like to do is go in is to add more little technological things. Maybe I have some thoughts on some like what's the word I'm looking at? I have some thoughts for some digital products, like
Okay.
say a PDF type of product to throw on Etsy or something to try to monetize without putting a strain on the stream itself. And but I need to have the time to be able to put that down. ChatGPT says it shouldn't take very long, but ChatGPT is not me. So, but me and ChatGPT talk about things I could do, and some of them are like, yeah, I suppose you got a point there. And other times I'm like, yeah, no, not gonna happen. But outside of that, and it's really just keeping on, keeping on. I'm haven't brought this up to Jade at some point because he has talked about like not me he like me maybe visiting him because he has a small countertop dishwasher, and I would like one of those. If
Oh,
I physically go down there, I could just drive it back.
there you go. Which is
So that
funny.
might happen at some point this summer, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because Jake was talking about some issues with his roof and a leak on a roof. And I said, Jade, I used to do roofing for a living. So my sister just moved to Missouri this month.
Oh.
And my mom already told me that at some point, my sister probably wants me to come do her roof. I said, I don't know how far away you are from her, but I'll be a whole lot closer than I will normally. So I would absolutely stop by and check it out and help you if I can. So that would be hilarious if you and I coordinated meeting up at Jate at the same time. That would be a hoot.
Yeah, definitely. Since I would be probably staying with him or his parents next door, I would be coordinating with him, but if you didn't tell him that you were gonna be there too.
Well, like I said, I have.
But I could definitely be a pair of hands to help. I mean, while I may not be, that experienced, I'm a quick learner. I do have a degree in engineering after all.
Well, part of it would be I would probably want to look at it, and like I said, if I went down to do my sister, I might, he'd have to have all of the stuff in place ahead of time. But if I were down there, it would probably just be a visit the first time to have a look at it, see if there's some small repairs that could be done to get him by until, it's ready to do the whole thing. But it was just kind of a funny thing, and now you're talking about going and seeing Jade. It's like, oh, how funny would that be if both of us ended up at Jade's house at the same time? That would be really fun. We'll have to definitely post those pictures for people. We'll do a
Oh, yeah,
podcast,
definitely.
do a podcast from his studio or something, and
Yes, with all of his foxes in the background.
yep, that. Well, I haven't had Jade on the podcast yet, and at some point I'll ask him. But I got a whole bunch of other people, and I've been on the Church Digital's podcast with Jade. So he's been around and he's helped out with our conference. So it's one of those things where eventually I'll have him on. Everybody knows Jade on some level in the circles. So it's like I'm trying
Yeah,
to highlight other people, but eventually, maybe for episode 100,
that'd be a good idea.
that'd be a fun thing to plan is episode 100, have Jade on. I'll have to look at how close I'm getting to 100. It'll be this year some point. So we'll see.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Thanks. I went over 50 earlier this year. Um I think you might be at 26 of season 2, something along those lines, and I did like 45 episodes maybe in season 1, so I'm getting
Mm,
in that direction, a few months from now, which like
yeah.
totally surprising to me. Like this is one of the fun things, like I was mentioning earlier with NCMS and getting back to seeing people and where they are and hearing updates, even when, because NCMS isn't everybody that's in Twitch. It's a bunch of people doing ministry to nerds. So there's a bunch of them that, aren't on a podcast. They're not in a chat when we're doing a live stream. So I don't always have those conversations. So it's like, yeah, how do we have those conversations and how do I get updated on what God's doing? And so just to see those stepping stones of further down the road, and like, I don't know who saw me having a podcast 2 years ago, but whoever it was and had that on their bingo card, you were right and I was wrong. So I'll say that.
Yeah, personally, I don't think I could, but for me, one of the struggles, even when I was a vet tech, it was asking the correct questions or asking questions. I mean, I can ask a lot of questions, but they're all really random and they're not going to necessarily go toward the specific goal or something. So I'm not sure that that's something that I could do myself either, though.
Yeah. Well, I tend to have a really simple framework of what I'm working with here, and I let the conversation go in different directions and then refocus it. But I'm having fun, and I'm bringing friends on to have conversations with, and then trying to just highlight for the whole kingdom to see. And so I mean, like I'll never know this, but it would be amazing if at some point there was one streamer that watched every video and said, that person there is the reason I got into streaming. Or I started doing something else, whatever it is. Like, hey, the episode with Samus, that's when I decided I was going to do this. That's like, I'll never hear that from every episode. And maybe not every episode will be that specifically. But I just have that thought in my head. And this goes back to when I was doing drama ministry is I'm doing this drama, we're doing this drama, and if it's for one person in the audience today, that's why we're doing it. And I take that same mentality to streaming. If it's for one person in the audience today, that's why we're doing it. So if this podcast was going to bless one person and they're going to feel encouraged to keep doing what they're doing, or they're ready to start doing something, then these last 3 hours were totally worth it. I'd do it all over again. If we weren't streaming, I'd probably still, spend 2-3 hours having conversations with people anyway. So I might as well stream it and bless other people.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I hope that something I say is encouraging to somebody. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure something is the way I see it is I try to be, and right now I'm not doing as good of a job with it because of the menopause or situation kind of screwing me up a bit. But I try to be a moving top, and so that all God has to do is kind of nudge me,
Uh-huh. Yep.
and then I'll just kind of go in that area and just keep going. So that's my goal really is just to allow God to use me that way. Mm. Some of the best conversations I've had, I don't remember. Like, there
Oh,
was one time.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I can't remember all the conversations I have when I go to conferences, and so yeah, there's just way too many to remember.
well, there was one that was, like, I didn't even know how long ago, probably 15 plus years ago, where, somebody and we just happened. I don't even remember how we got so it was just her and I in the room. I think everyone else just happened to go home or something after a party, and we're talking, and I'm talking and we start talking about God and Jesus or something. I don't remember. I literally don't remember. All I remember is at the end, she's like, "Wow, that was the most sense a Christian's ever made," or that's the, and I'm sitting there like, I don't remember what I said, so it probably wasn't me.
Well, and I'll give an example of one of those things that, like, how was I going to remember this? So I coached cross country for a while, and the senior year at graduation party, the mom of one of my runners came up and said, do you know how much impact you made in his life?" Like, no. "Do you remember what you said to him the first day of practice?" Like, how am I supposed to know what I remember the first day of practice 4 years ago? No, I don't remember what I said. She said, "You told him he is going to improve so much. He is going to improve more than anyone else on the team. And you can't wait to see the improvement he makes because he's going to surprise himself to do this." And I'm like going, "Oh, yeah, that sounds like me." But I wouldn't remember saying that. It was just a matter of he was the slowest person out there. So statistically, he had all of that, but it was also the way I said it was an encouragement, was a belief, was an excitement for it. It wasn't we were done with practice a while ago. Why aren't you done? It was just like, no, 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 this was really cool. It's like, wow, like we know that brings it back to our conversation earlier of sometimes we hear the negative things and we hold on to them. Here was one of those opportunities. I said something incredibly positive, not understanding the depths of how impactful it was going to be in someone's life that really kept them on a trajectory over the next 4 years to move in a direction of being healthier, of believing in themselves and accomplishing things. And it was like, wow, I had no clue that it was going to be anything that impactful at all.
Uh, the lesson of the story being encourage each other, people.
There you go. Yes. All right. I like to ask the guest who we can raid out to, unless you're going to keep streaming. What you said you normally end. Wait, are you ending at 6 o'clock your time or my time?
My time, but I also most of my spoons are social spoons,
Okay.
or those are the most sensitive, and so having a conversation like this can drain them pretty
Okay.
good, so that if I were to start a game, I would just kinda be.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
If the streamer is staying on, I like to raid you. If not, we'll do a double raid out. So if you've got somebody that we can raid out to, let me know, and we will raid out over there.
uh, alright, let me see. How about freight train?
Yeah, I don't have them showing up in mine, so I must not be following with the Church Digital.
I just realized I don't know how to click. Oh, I know, I'll open a new tab and then immediately stop the stream so that you don't hear 'em.
See, and yeah, you'll have to do that way. We're all good there. Yep, I got
Accepted
it.
as a DM.
Yep, I thank
He
you.
is
Final Fantasy.
he is a lovely man of God who, yep, and he is, I met him at Reach, and he's just a great guy.
Yeah, I think I met him as well, but probably did not have any long conversations with Freight Train. So be nice to follow and get to know him a little better.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really until after I Reach, either, but, it's kind of interesting how it makes it easier to have a conversation when you put a face to the name and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any final words before we hit raid and end up out of here?
Not really, just remember everyone, the whole let me get my raid started. There we go. But be nice to each other because you don't know what the other person has been dealing with, and encourage everyone for the same reason.
All right. Love that. And I'll just say thank you, everyone, for being here. Samus, so glad to finally get you on here and be able to chat. And you were worried a little bit about what are you going to chat about? We spent 3 hours. And so I think it was a fantastic conversation. Loved it. And I look forward to chatting with everybody else later on. So have a blessed day, everybody.
Thanks.